Hey guys, thank you for falling for my clickbait. It's true. Today I'm going to be ranking all of the companions and side characters that we met in our playthrough of Dragon Age Inquisition. By the way, if you want to see me do said playthrough, you can watch me over on Twitch. And also, I'm going to be joined by my editor Jenn, who's a huge fan of Dragon Age. So make sure give her big thanks in the comments for me. She does a lot of great work normally. She's not usually like a huge presence in the videos, but that just makes it even more fun that she gets to join us for this today. So without further ado, let's just get to the ranking, all right? Jenn, do you care to introduce yourself? Go for it. Hit me. Let's go.
Hey, I'm Jen. I'm the editor. I'm super excited to see where a whole bunch of these characters land on your tier list because I know that you feel exactly how I feel about the characters. Every single one of them. You love them exactly as much as I do.
Yeah, that's true. And we've never had any disagreements about any of the characters. We've never felt differently about any of them. So yeah, I think everything about this is going to go really smoothly. Let's see, how many characters are there? I think there's about 18 characters that we're going to rank. And so I expect this to be done in, let's see, 30 seconds per character. So in about 9 minutes from now, we should be done because there's just going to
Amazing.
be
No conflict.
Yeah, exactly. No disagreements. We're going to be great. Okay, let's get to it. All right. Now, Jenn, I've shared my screen with you. You can follow me, right? We're just going to go in order of these characters, starting with my boy, Blackwall. Blackwall's an interesting guy. I originally had him, I think, like, pre-show, we talked about this a little bit. I'm very big on, like, a character's introduction. And just based on, like, his introduction, I think I would have put him, like, pretty low. However, I'm going to put him in mid-tier, which we've labeled Pleasant Company, which, by the way, really quick, just for everybody who's watching, we're not using like S, A, B, whatever tiers. I've personally decided to rename the tiers Best Boy / Best Girl. Right underneath that, a Real Trooper. A next, Pleasant Company. Beneath that, Mid. And underneath that, Forgot About, right? Completely immemorable. This is the scale we're using. I talked about this with Jenn off stream. I think the thing we've settled on is that characters in Dragon Age tend to be like generally, I think, pretty good. In the sense that not very many of them are like hateable. Generally, they seem to be like interesting, less interesting, or forgettable / boring, which is really, I think, the sin they like commit the most, if at all, right? So that's kind of the scale we're using. So with all that in mind, Jenn, I'm going to throw it back to you. How do you feel about Blackwall?
For Blackwall, I guess you might have warmed me up a little bit to Blackwall and paying attention to a lot of his little inputs and stuff when you have him out and you're in the hinterlands, which is your favorite place to be. But yeah, he's all right. He's an all right guy. I'm very interested to see you get to the end of Trespasser. And if you don't find it, I will let you know. But there is some stuff about Blackwall that you never actually got to in his companion quest. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay, I accept that. And you know what? Actually, that's going to come with another little disclaimer for the audience, real quick. Apologies, Jenn, but I'm going to address the people real quick, guys. I have nearly finished the game. I have defeated Corypheus. I have completed my Inquisition, as it were. But I'm not quite done yet with the game, and I have not completed the Trespasser DLC. So the opinions you're about to see are all based on me being at that point. So just keep that in mind as we go forward, all right? Blackwall, Pleasant Company. I think this is actually pretty generous considering that, like, I think his intro kind of made me want to put him in mid. But his dialogue with other characters as we've gone through the campaign has kind of risen him up a little bit. Anyways, Jenn not disagreeing with me as a good sign. We're gonna move on now to Cassandra, Sandra, as I call her. I think she's a really easy candidate for real trooper. What do you think?
Yeah, Cassandra's been through a lot. She's been trying to hold the Inquisition together and even was just a big force in getting it started. So I see no argument here with her. She's fun. I really wish I would have had the chance to romance her, but I played as a female elf, and unfortunately, she's not into the females.
Yeah, I had the same problem because you recommended that I play as a female elf. A decision I don't regret, by the way. I totally agree with that decision. Um, However, yeah, it did kind of lock me out of a romance with Cassandra, who I did really like, and I wish, out of the three starting characters, which would be her, Varric, and Solas, um, I do think that Cassandra, if I had to pick one of those three to romance as like a canon romance, I think Sandra would have been like the one, to be honest. Um, you can disagree with me on that, Jen. That's fine.
I do
You
disagree, but that's
really?
fine. I do.
What's your canon romance between those three?
Oh, we will get into it when I show you my list because I have
Okay.
also ranked everybody. And that
Okay.
I think I'm saving for later so that we can compare how exactly the same they are.
True. Okay, you know what? Fair enough. All right. I look forward to discussing that later when you show me an exact perfect copy of my list back to me. Um okay, Corypheus, he's next up on our list.
Which is very interesting because he is the villain of the game.
Yeah, and so we're judging him as a villain, right? So if he was a great villain, right? As in like
Mhm.
he came into my camp, he insulted me in all the right ways, he killed all of my best friends, that would put him in best boy territory, right? Because
Mhm.
I am trying to judge these people fairly. I'm trying to judge them as per their roles in the story and in the game. Um and that would make him great. However, I think Corypheus, I think I'm going to put him in mid. And
Okay.
it really pains me to say that because I think that one of the things that we talked about pre-show, Jen, was that
Mhm.
one of the things I weigh really heavily for these characters is their introduction, right?
Right.
And I think Corypheus had a great introduction. I think, and I've talked about this in some of my other videos, by the way. If you wanna hear my opinions, you should go back and watch those videos. They're going to be in a Dragon Age playlist on my channel. In order, you should go watch those. I'm just saying that for the YouTube people. But anyways, Corypheus had a fantastic introduction. And I that's because I consider his introduction to be the time travel episode where
Right.
yes, where we travel a year into the future after Corypheus has already succeeded in his plot to spread red lyrium across the land, to destroy the veil, allowing the Fade and the real world to kind of like coalesce into one. Um, Seeing that vision of the future is like a super strong introduction for a villain. It's amazing. It's probably one of the yeah. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I think it's one of the best introductions for a villain I've ever seen in every game I've ever played. It's really
Wow.
good. No, yeah, no, and I mean that. Like, it's really really good. Um, it's funny because I used to actually people may not know this about me. Um, because as a YouTuber who makes content about video games, you would never suspect this. But I'm actually a huge nerd, and I play D&D actually on the side, and I actually used to be a dungeon master for my group. Um, and so something that I used to think about a lot was how do I introduce villains to my group that will make them care about them, right?
Mhm.
How do I make people care about the villains? Um, and that was yeah, that's something that's like lived in my brain a lot over the past like 5, 6, 7 years. Um, And I think Corypheus, like, so when I look at video games, sometimes I look at them like as a dungeon master, and
Mhm.
Corypheus is like, he's a great villain from like a dungeon master standpoint, in the sense that like I'm going to introduce him in a very strong way, and then as you guys progress through the story, I'm going to let you defeat his lieutenants. And I think that's just great. I think it's really, really, really good. However, in a video
Yeah, I was gonna
game,
say, and yet he's mid.
yes. Okay, yes, exactly. Thank you. However, right? And this is important. Video games are not D&D, right?
Mm, right.
And I think there's a big problem when like in D&D you have an issue where I don't want to dangle a villain in front of my players a whole bunch of times and not let them kill him, right?
Right.
That's an issue because it starts to upset people. Like, oh, so this guy is just going to continue to show up and we're never going to be able to kill him. Like, it starts to make them feel hopeless. Because in a game like D&D, you expect there to be less boundaries, right?
Hmm.
In a video game, we kind of do expect there to be boundaries, right? How many games have you played where you can't jump off the cliff because there is an invisible wall that prevents you from jumping off that cliff, right?
Right.
So in a video game, it kind of works to have like a villain of the week who continues to run away and come back next week.
Hmm.
And I think they kind of missed the chance to do that with Corypheus, where every week we kind of came back and we did like another main story quest. And every week we were introduced to like a new lieutenant who really had like almost no emotional impact for us, or at least for me. Like that's kind of how I felt. So, really strong introduction to Corypheus, but every week that I came back, I found myself encountering like a new lieutenant of his that I would defeat, but that I didn't care about. And I think I'm gonna that disappointment that I had each week, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna count that against Corypheus as a villain. Like
Okay.
if you're a real villain, I think you should be the guy to be like teleporting around doing the things. That's my opinion. That's where I'm coming at it with this guy. Um and that's why I'm putting him in mid. Because I think a great villain would have been the kind of villain who would have been a little bit more present in our journey. The fact that he has like such a strong first impression and then just kind of like fucks off into the background,
Hmm.
that just didn't work for me. And I liked the resolution with like, oh, okay, we have the final fight with him. Um, that was a fun fight. It was cool, but like at the same time, it kind of felt like it just felt very gamified. Like, okay, I've beat all of your lieutenants, and so now instead of choosing like a good strategy, you're just gonna challenge me by like opening the rift, you know, and you're gonna summon me to fight you, and we're just gonna have like an epic showdown, and like it's fine. Like it's not game ruining, right?
Right.
It's not terrible, but I just yeah, I just didn't I think he could have been better. I think he had a really strong impression, a really strong first impression, and I feel like he just didn't quite live up to that. And that's why I'm going to put him in mid. What do you think?
I have him a bit higher up on the list. I have him higher up just because the ancient elven artifact that kind of ignites this whole thing, um, you'll find out is very difficult to open. Like he shouldn't have been able to do that. And to just right off the bat be able to do this, because I'm of the opinion that he is not an old god.
Uh,
That's just not what he is. He is just some Tevinter mage from the long, long ago that got himself fucked up with some red lyrium. Like that's my impression of what he was doing. He was doing
yeah,
some blood magic, some red
that's
lyrium.
that seems to be like what the game kind of implies too.
Yeah, so I'm of the mind that he is not an ancient Tevinder magister turned old god or anything like that. But
Mm.
the fact that he, in my opinion, is just a man that was able to open that elven artifact is a lot. Like he clearly does have the power to do so. Plus, he has that kick-ass dragon, which I just think is fun. I like it when people have pets. that just automatically makes me like them more because I get to see the pet, and I love the dragon. I love the design for him. I know a lot of people are just like, the dragon designs have like gone downhill ever since Origins, whatever. I think it's fun. And I imagine it must have been hard to go recruit all of those lieutenants and then be pissy every time one of them died. So I feel
Yeah.
like he was working hard on that.
No, you know what? I will say, I'll give him a little bit of credit, and I'm not gonna move him up, but maybe I'll keep him at the top of mid, just because I think you're right. I think like him having a pet is actually like a really good quality. That's one thing that I really liked, and that's one thing that like if I had kept going through the story and kept having to fight the what is that dragon called? The Archdemon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If I had kept having to fight the Archdemon as like, oh, like this is Corypheus' lieutenant, he keeps sending in the Archdemon, I think it would have been a little bit cooler with that because it's like, oh yeah, he has control of this big dragon and he can send it in as reinforcements to places, and that's really cool or whatever. I think that would have been fine. But the fact that it's like, yeah, each quest he has like a different lieutenant that we have to take down, it's like it doesn't really give us time to like really connect with each lieutenant. Or at least that was my feeling. And but I did really like the Archdemon actually. I really liked that dragon's design. I thought it was really cool. Yeah, I'll keep him in mind. We may or may not do a reshuffle at the end, but yeah, I think for right now that's where he stands. Moving on. Cullen. I'm going to go ahead and put him in pleasant company. I did not hate my boy. I did like him. Cullen's main story arc is being addicted to lyrium, which is kind of like just being a drug addict, which is fine.
Recovering. He's recovered.
No, I'm not saying like, oh, he's a drug addict. I hate him because he's a drug addict. That's all I'm saying. I like that's a fine story arc. It's totally fine. But I just like okay. I I don't know. It's just fine to me. Like it's just like it's very fine. And actually, like the way I'm talking about it, I'm feeling like playing him down to mid. Yeah, because I think it's just fine, you know? Like
So I 100% agree with you with this, and I think we might get, if we get any Cullen Mancers, Cullen romancers, if we get any Cullen Mancers in the comments, we might get flamed for this a little bit. I don't get the hype around Cullen. Cullen has actually been around for all 3 games. This is the first time that he's had like a big part in the game. Like this is his big breakout, but he has been canonically in all 3 games.
okay.
And I just don't get it. He's just like a basic white boy. And that's just how I've always seen him. Like, I don't understand. I have some friends that like swear by Cullen and his romance and everything. And I just can't. That's my opinion. No one else seems to agree with me, but he's just a mid white boy.
Yeah, I mean, he's really just like, yeah, you know, Jenn. Here's the thing, Jenn. Okay, I want our audience to know this too. Okay, I want everyone to know this. I am very incentivized to disagree with Jenn because I think that creates like conflict, and conflict equals content. Okay, if you've been on YouTube, you know that's the case. I completely agree with Jenn. This is like that's 100% true. He's just so like even his problem is mid. It's like I don't like lyrium, but I want to keep taking it. It's like, well then just stop taking it. I don't know, like what do you just stop doing it. I don't know, like maybe I'm being like, I swear to God, Jen, we're gonna get like some fucking crack addict in the comments who's gonna be like, it's not that easy, you know? But like, here's the like, I know it's not that easy. I'm not dumb, okay? I'm not a stupid idiot. I know it's not that easy, but at the same time, it's like, just because it's not easy doesn't mean I have to give you all the sympathy in the world. Like, just stop doing it, you know? I am I being a bad person, Jen?
I will disagree on you. Like the fact that he was addicted to lyrium was the thing that I was like, oh, okay, fine. I guess the Templars are like also abused because again, I come from a very pro mage standpoint in this game. So that did kind of give me pause for a second. And I'm like, I'm really sorry, especially for the fact that he thinks he has to keep taking it, is what I was like, all right, there, poor sir, I guess. But just everything else for me, he's always been a little milk toast white boy that had an affinity for mages, like weird little crushes on mages, and that's slightly weird to me. And he's just boring. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Any of
No,
my
I mean
friends that
he
watch your
really
videos
is. No, he
that
really is. Like he's really kind of boring. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. Okay. Another factor about my judgment of these characters is their tarot cards, right?
right,
Um and I think Cullen, he doesn't have a tarot card for you to like select for to like bring you into his party, but he has one for like when you're deploying him on assignments at the war table, right?
right.
His tarot card for that assignment at the war table is so good. It's amazing. It's fantastic. It is it portrays him as like a pale, completely flushed um arbiter of your will, right?
Right.
He has no color in his face. I think his eyes are like kind of red. He's holding a sword and he is ready to go out and impose your will without question. And I think that is like I think that's a great characterization for Cullen.
Hmm.
It never translates into the into his story, into his dialogue, into his gameplay, you know? Um and that I think is like a real like that's like a real bummer because there's a real question to be had here of like is this guy is he doing the right thing or is he just a tool, right?
Right.
That's a good question. But like we don't really get to like explore that because it's just like, oh yeah, do you like him or do you don't like him? You know? Do you want to romance him or do you not want to? Right? Eh, I that's not those aren't really the questions I'm interested in when it comes to Colin, right? Um yeah.
I
Uh,
liked his coat. I thought his little coat thing was cool. I
I thought
mean,
his
it's
coat was
a
cool too. Listen, I thought his whole tarot card was really cool. That was kind of like that's actually why he's mid is because his tarot card is so cool. Like his tarot card has him with like the full-on fur shawl with the cloak and shit, and he's pale and he's got like the red eyes and shit, and he's like, I am nothing but a tool of the Inquisition. But like nothing about his personal story reflects like being a tool of the Inquisition. Like nothing, yeah, it just doesn't line up. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily he's a tool of the Inquisition, but what he definitely sees in himself, and now I think I'm getting into the brainwashing my friends tried to do for me of when I was like, I don't like Cullen, is that he's more of like a tool of the Chantry. The Chantry are the people that really like did a number on him and kind of abused him and stuff because of the red lyrium, not the red lyrium, because of the lyrium that they're forced to take in order to have their little Templar powers and whatnot. So sure, I guess that's fine if it works for you, but I don't know. He's
Well,
just a basic white boy.
even if he's a tool, here's the thing: even if he's a tool of the Chantry, then it's again, it's kind of the same thing. Like, okay, you're such a big tool of the Chantry, but like, you're so amenable to me as a character, as a person. Like, so where's the conflict? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like he's like, oh, okay, like who was nice to you last? That's where your allegiance lies. Like, okay, you know?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't have much else to say. He seems really white toast, but I like his coat, so that's fun.
You know what? For his coat, if I wasn't grading, if I was grading on just aesthetics, I'd say best boy. Yeah, good coat.
It's a good
Absolutely.
coat. I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah, for sure. Moving moving on. I don't even recognize this girl. I don't know if I ever talked to her. If I did, I completely forgot about her. I don't know who this is. Jen, who is this?
That's Dagna. So she's a bit of like a sleeper hit, if maybe, or just like an underground hit. Haha, she's a dwarf. So we actually meet her in that was a bad joke. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that was
cut
good.
that.
That was good. I liked it.
So we
Good
actually
job.
meet her in Dragon Age Origins that you have not played.
Okay.
Um, so she runs up to the main character of that game and is just like, "Hey, I really love magic. I want to study magic. You're like a super important character in this game. Can you help me get into a circle?" And everyone's like, "You're crazy. You're a dwarf. Dwarves don't do magic." No. But if you don't, you're like the evilest person ever. So usually people help her get into the circle, and then Dragon Age 2 happened and we're like, what happened to Dagna? We never heard from her again. And then here she is, and she helps you with your crafting, so when you craft weapons and armor and whatnot. So she learned all the stuff in the circle, and now she came to help the Inquisition. She was just like a fun kind of Easter egg for a bunch of people.
Okay. Um yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and leave her and forgot about just because I didn't know her. Sorry, Dagna. You seem great. Apologies, but you know,
Maybe one day you'll meet her in
maybe
Origins.
maybe one day. She's on DA too, or
No, just Origins. So we have to go back to the
really?
beginning. Yeah.
Okay. Yikes, that's a big gap.
But she was that popular that they brought her back for Inquisition.
Sure, but I mean, when did Origins come out actually?
I don't know. I'll put it somewhere.
Okay, put it. You're editing the video. Put it in the video somewhere. Okay,
All right.
moving on. Um, you know it's so funny. Holy shit, you're gonna think this is funny. Okay, I know who this bitch is. This is Mother
Right.
Giselle. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I know this is Mother Giselle. It's funny because I know her name, and it's funny
Mm-hmm.
because like there are characters who like I don't even know their name, and I'm gonna rank her. I'm gonna rank them higher than this bitch whose name I actually know. I know this woman's name. I'm putting her in forgot about. I'm not lying to you when yeah, I'm being completely serious. Once we moved to Skyhold, I think I forgot she existed. Not even like and I'm not memeing like the Dagna meme or whatever. I legit forgot Mother Giselle existed. I don't know who she is. I don't know what her deal is. Jen, explain her to me, please.
So Mother Giselle is the very first person that we got to help us when we were like at Haven and we needed the Chantry to like help us close that first rift. And
Mm.
then remember that fun first opening scene when they're singing the Dawn Will Come song and everyone just breaks into song for a little bit? She's the one that starts that.
Okay.
I have a bit of beef with Mother Giselle because she also is the one that is actually trying to instigate our beloved Dorian to go talk with his father. But her reasons for doing so is because he's gay and he should stop that.
Right. She is the one who gives us that quest.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that now actually. That's true. Um I love how I interrupted to like make that mention. Um
But
and
that's basically the extent of her.
yeah, I have no idea what she did. Um yeah, no, I think she firmly belongs in forgot about. I have no idea who she is. I don't really know what she believes. Um the funny thing about Dragon Age, I will say, is that so many characters are so multifaceted in a way that's so um like comprehensive and human and understandable and really makes me appreciate the writing for this game. I really love, like, more than anything else, I've fallen in love with Dragon Age's storytelling. I really like it. However, there are a few characters who I'm just like, who the fuck are you? What the fuck did you do? And Mother Giselle is one of those characters.
Mm.
Another one of those characters is Iron. No, I'm just kidding. Absolutely not.
I was about to
Yeah.
quit right now.
No. Another one of those characters. Okay, you said that, but here we go. Another one of those characters is Josephine. I'm sorry.
That's slightly heartbreaking for me.
It might be. Listen, here's the thing about Josephine. She did have a character arc. She did have a story. And if I have to actually like engage my brain and fire off my neurons, I can recall what her story is. I do know what happened with her.
Right.
But I think the more brain cells that I summon into my frontal lobe to give me information about Josephine, the less I care about her. I think at the end of the day, she didn't even have like a weak introduction. She had like a decent intro, but here's the thing. At the end of the day, I think her story kind of boiled down to, do I want to fix my family's reputation the quote unquote right way, or do I want to fix it the bad way?
Mm-hmm.
And for my playthrough, I chose the bad way because it was less work for me. And after having fixed her family's reputation the quote unquote bad way with Leliana's assassins, I went ahead and I talked to her at Val Royeaux and our French King's Landing, as I'm going to continue to call it. I went ahead and I went to French King's Landing and I talked to Josephine, and she was like, hey, so you totally resolved this conflict the bad way, the way that I didn't want you to resolve it. But I'm super grateful for that and I appreciate it. And I was like, okay, cool. So your story is inconsequential and I don't give a fuck. You know? That was kind of my whole thing.
I mean, I gotta disagree with you here. I don't think she's like, I don't think she should be forgotten about. Like, I totally get Dagna. You never met her. Obviously, she was going to end up in this category. I foresaw this. Mother Giselle, I kind of imagined she was going to end up in this category for you, just because she stops really being relevant once you get to Skyhold. So I was shocked you remembered as much as you did about her. But I will disagree with Josephine. For me, she's memorable as a character, maybe not her character arc, but like her character. I don't know if you got that scene or if you were just distracted with all of the lore that you didn't know. But she does have a cutscene where she talks about being a bard for a little while, and it was just kind of
oh yeah, I remember that. I actually do remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so she really gives off like kind of rich girl that wants to just go have like a fun, almost like gap year is the way that I kind of put it into context for myself. And then she realizes that being a bard means like assassinating people, and she acts like she killed that one guy, and that was just so traumatic for her. And she just like, that's why she holds on to these morals of like, things have to be done the right way. We can't just, no, Leliana, we can't just like assassinate people. We have to do this the correct way, which is the political way, which unfortunately can be slow sometimes, or it can just put up so much red tape that you're like, fuck this. But she holds fast to those morals and things that like there is a right way of doing things. And that just always stuck with me. Plus she's cute and she has an accent, and I think that's attractive. And she will romance
she
you.
does.
So she's like, there's a fun little cutscene when you romance her and stuff, and like it's cute. She's cute. I'm weak. I have a weakness for cute girls.
Okay.
So
okay, here I guess, you know what? I'm gonna revise my thing a little bit here. I'm not gonna revise my ranking. I'm gonna leave her where she is. All right. But I will say, in judgment of her, one thing I will add as an addendum is, yeah, I talked to her a lot. Okay, I did. I really did. I got a lot of her cutscenes. I think I got all of them. Um, and I did not get to romance her. So you know what? Had I been able to romance her, I think she probably would have gone up like 2 or 3 levels easy. Um, yeah, I don't appreciate that I didn't get to romance her. That sucks. Um, maybe that's my fault. I don't know. I don't care. We're moving on. We're talking about Iron Bull now, okay?
All right.
Iron Bull, I am going to put, and I don't even think it's a question, okay? It's not even like a question. This boy is a real trooper. And I'm gonna actually do because of the order of the characters in this list, I'm gonna go ahead and put Krem right next to him.
Oh, that's sweet.
I think they are both fantastic characters. Yeah. I think they're great. I think they are I I think something about Iron Bull that I really, really love is that his quests, some of his quests are just literally like side quests where you have a cutscene with him goofing off with his boys. You know?
Yeah.
I think like the fact that I think like he has like 2 cutscenes of just that, um, it does so much for his character. It's so good. It's so well done. I, oh god, I don't even know where to begin with him. Um, no, never mind. I do know where to begin. Okay, let's begin at the end. All right, Iron Bull's companion quest ends in a decision, but well, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Mhm.
Iron Bull's companion quest ends in a decision between forging a pact between the Inquisition and the Qunari, or you can forge, or you can reinforce Iron Bull's bond with they're called the Chargers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Um, that is such a great like decision. It's so good. It's so well like it's uh it's just so good. Like the idea of like okay, you can choose like this political expediency or you can choose friendship. That is exactly like what BioWare games are made for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just love it. I love that whole quest. I just love it. Um, I love that before you get to take on this quest, you have to take on these like, oh, hey boss, how's it going? I'm Iron Bull. By the way, he doesn't sound like that. He doesn't sound like a Harry Potter character. He has such a good accent. The voice actor does like a phenomenal job. Um, and they just do a good job of introducing you to the characters of I don't know what are they called, like the Iron Chargers or the Bull Chargers or something like that, right, Jen? What are they called?
It's Iron Bull and the Chargers. They're his, yeah, they're his Chargers. You
Or Iron Bull and
go
the
in.
Chargers. Okay, there you go.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, but the Chargers are great, and you get all these cutscenes with them where you just get to like drink at the tavern and have a good time with them. You know, like you get like 2
Yeah.
cutscenes with that, and it's just it's super effective because if you hadn't had those cutscenes, then that last Inquisition cutscene, like it wouldn't matter, right? Who cares? You know what I mean? Like,
I love it so much, and it's also because you don't know as much of the lore of like the Qun,
mm,
which is the faction, the like religion that Iron Bull was raised under. Um, it just hits so much more because it's so much more than just like the power of friendship versus like political allies. Even though that's a really big thing because this is the first time that any of the Qun are just like, yes, we are going to go and work with outside people. Like they don't do that.
yeah,
But when you recognize that Iron Bull by picking the Chargers is essentially turning his back, he's going to become Tal the Shah. That
yeah,
means that he is turning his back on everything. Every friendship that he had in the Qun, the people that raised him, because they're raised in like group settings, they don't have like one-on-one parents, like
Yes.
everything that he had, to the point that they needed to send an assassin after him, which is like the fallout of the decision
Right.
of choosing the
Yes.
Chargers, to tell him like, you are literally dead to us, you can never come back. But that like found family, and the fact that he held on to his name, he gave himself a name, not just a title, it just shows how much that he was just kind of like adapting to the world outside of the Cune. And quite frankly, I think he was thriving. I think this is amazing for him. I love this.
Yeah.
Like he's just so great. And the like parental role that he takes on with Krem is just so great as well. It's I just love
I
him. I
no
love
no no.
him.
I totally know. No, he's like he's such a dad. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And in like the
Hmm.
best way, where it's like, okay, he loves he doesn't love the Chargers. Okay. Like, I think a lot of people are gonna say, like, oh, Iron Bull, he has like a found family with the Chargers,
Hmm.
right? And that's fine. That's fair. If you want to characterize it that way, that's okay. But it's more than that, in my opinion, because having a found family is like, oh, I have a bunch of friends that I really love and we're going to look out for each other. Um, that's not really like what it is. He is like their leader in a way that's like more important than that. Right? You know what I mean? Do you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yeah, like he is like of course he trusts them. Of course he does. Right? No question about that. There's no question that he trusts every single person in his company. But the way that they reciprocate his trust, and I think the way that not only the way that they reciprocate his trust, but the way that that plays out in that final mission where it's like, listen, if you can have these people, you can have them sacrifice themselves for this dreadnought. That's what they call the battleship, right?
Yeah.
It's a dreadnought, yeah. Um, you can have all these people sacrifice themselves, and it's no problem because like they're so willing to do it, they would be happy to do it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's either that or it's just the blind trust of like, he would never put us in a position of danger. Because even his friend from the Cune that you're talking to, the elf from the Cune, is just like, you gave them the easier mission. Like, we had the harder location to take over. Like, of course you trust him. Like,
yeah,
just of course you do.
yeah. It's just like it's this level of trust that's so like that's so absolute. Um, that it's so heartwarming, and to see him struggle with that decision, I think it's like I don't know how you can be like an inquisitor and choose to sacrifice those people, you know?
I don't either. I don't understand
Yeah.
how some people do that.
And listen, if you're one of those people, go ahead and comment. Like, you're not gonna get like a whole ton of judgment from me. I'll try my best to see your position.
I
Um,
will. I'll judge them.
okay, Jen, you can judge that. That's fine. I will try. I'll try my best to see your position. I want to see where everyone's coming from, but like, I just I I'm not like a I consider myself like not the most caring, considerate person. I have people who I love. I'm not trying to like say I'm a psychopath, but like for me to see someone like take on a whole bunch of strangers under his wing as like his found family, that's just like that speaks volumes to me, you know? And to see Iron Bull do that, I mean, Jesus, yeah, that just spoke a lot. That spoke very highly of him. And yeah, I think he's great. I think he's like I think if I am gonna maybe reshuffle these guys at the end, and Iron Bull is a strong contender to being put into best boy.
I
Absolutely.
mean, I know that's where I put him. I'm just saying, like, that's
Very
definitely.
yeah, fair enough.
So I have one last thing to say about Iron Bull and why I love him. His romance is also one of the funner ones. He has a really fun romance. He has one of the best, one of the cutscenes that's like one of the funniest ones if you look up compilations. He is absolutely in it, and it is hilarious. He's just fun, and I also think the little romance, if you don't romance him, where he ends up with Dorian, is just also so cute and so adorable. I just love him.
Wait, he ends up with Dorian? What?
You clearly did not listen to me where I told you to leave people together when you're not playing. so that they can have their own little stuff come up in between everybody else. Yeah, he has a little romance with Dorian. Him and Dorian are canon.
Okay, well, hang on. First of all, hang on. I did let people have their moments together, okay? But I also left my computer maybe during that time, okay? So, you know, maybe I just wasn't there for it. Anyways, no, that's super cute, actually. I feel personally like Iron Bull he's such a hearing that he has the possibility of ending up with Dorian actually feels super like appropriate. Because Iron Bull is kind of like, I don't think that he would be like this normally, but I think for the right person, he would be kind of like a golden retriever kind of a boyfriend.
Yeah.
You know? And I think Dorian needs that kind of a person. You know what I mean? I think Dorian has like so much going on that like I think he needs like a golden retriever in his life. So I think that's actually really cute.
They are super cute. I'll send you some compilations of stuff because I love it. That's why I can never romance Iron Bull or even Dorian if I play as a male, because I just think their romance is just so cute together.
It honestly, I haven't even witnessed it, and just hearing it, I think it's pretty cute. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Okay, we're gonna move on. Oh my god. Okay, this is an absolutely inexplicable one. This is gonna be really short because I don't know how to describe why I feel the way I feel. Lace Harding is absolutely best girl.
Oh, absolutely.
She's just great. I think she's just I think she's just there for me in a way that so few people are. She's just there for me. You know what I mean? And you can talk to her about her backstory in the game, and I'm not sure if she's in other games. I would be surprised if she was, because the way that she talks, the way she talks about her backstory is, oh, I was just some bumfuck no one in Redcliffe, and then the Inquisition came through, and I joined up. And the way that she talks about that is just like so like, it's just so admirable, you know? Like, if you consider the kind of threat the world is facing and the point that she joined at, and I think especially having finished the game, or I mean, I still have a few.
You've basically finished.
I still have like a few cutscenes to go, but like I've basically finished the game at this point. Being at this point where it's like, oh yeah, like the Inquisition is really built up. We've really become like a really cool, like a really strong force in the world, so much so that like nobles can't ignore us anymore. They really have to come to Skyhold and kiss my ass, right? It's like it makes the like original joiners that much more valuable and that much more cool, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, right? Like, you feel me?
Absolutely. I think she was just such a great character, just kind of overall of like how she handled things. She has her little like sassy moments. She's just, her voice acting is really good. It's
her VA is so good. Her voice actress is so good. Yes.
I loved everything about her in the small role that she had just in Inquisition. Also, I think people knew when making the game that she was going to be popular because you could flirt with her, which I thought was also fun. And then she gets to just like be in Veilguard. I'm so excited. She I think, if I remember right, because I've been trying to stay away from spoilers, but I think this was mentioned before EA just started dropping the ball everywhere, that we are actually going to be able to romance her, which will make her the first dwarf that we're able to romance a Dragon Age game.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I like that. I love Harding. I think she's fantastic. She absolutely deserves to like be carried over into like the next game. Yeah, no, she's great. I love her voice actor. she doesn't have. I'll try to be fair. And I will acknowledge she doesn't have that much to do in this game. Even in like the last battle, when Corypheus is raising up like all the rocks into the air and shit, she literally
Right.
gets like tossed off onto the ground, and it's like, you have to wait on the ground, bitch, while everyone else does the fighting. You know what I mean? It's like, it is a little bit sad for her. But I mean, she's just so present, like in all the dialogue and stuff. And I think that kind of speaks to like the way the game kind of works out, where it's like the stuff I really like is the choices, the decisions, the dialogue, the story. That's the stuff I really like. So the fact that she gets kind of excluded from the combat in that way is like, who cares? Not me, really. You know.
Yeah, but I mean, I did like unlocking new locations and knowing that I was going to get my next like Scarp Harding kind of interaction. Like that was fun. I'm excited to see what they're going to do for her, like story wise and everything else like that. I love Scout Lath Harding. Phenomenal.
Absolutely, I totally agree, 100%. Moving on, Leilani, what's her name?
Leliana.
That's what I said. I'm gonna put her in. I'm gonna put her in pleasant company. Because I don't think she really. Okay, throughout most of the game, she did not really stand out to me.
Okay.
However, the reason she is going to go in pleasant company as opposed to mid, because mid is where I would put someone who didn't really stand out to me at all, like Cullen, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm putting Leilani in pleasant company is because during the portions that did focus on her, those portions did work. I think you and I were talking pre-show about there was a quest where after Justinia dies, like officially in the Fade and whatever, you go on a quest to like uh some convent or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
or some church to try to find like some little message that Justina left for Leilani. And it's really cool because Leilani encounters like another nun, and she kind of like uses some like very subtle clues to find out like, oh, is this nun, is she is she hip? Is she with it? Oh no, she's working against me. I'm gonna fucking kill her, And it's like it's a really cool moment. I like it. I like it a lot. Um, so I like Leilani's quest. I like her personal deal, like the fact that she's like the spy master and she's in charge of the assassins. It's all very cool, but she just doesn't have that much time to shine. And the time that she does have to shine is it just makes her seem cool, but not like crazy good. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I would feel for her, but I wouldn't cry over her. Which is I think where it is with like, that's why I think she's appropriate. She should probably be ahead of Blackwall, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm being honest. Um, but like her and Blackwall belong here in the sense that like, yeah, I feel for you, dog, but like I'm not gonna cry over your quest. Like Iron Bull, I will cry over his quest. It's like a heartbreaking decision they has to make. Krem, absolutely same decision, totally true. Cassandra, just like so much characterization she gets in this game. Yeah, I'll totally cry for her. Leilani, I don't feel that way. Um,
I mean, I disagree on that point, but that's just because it's so hard for me because I have played Origins where Liliana kind of it all started for her,
sure.
and then she does show up again as a fun little Easter egg in Dragon Age 2.
Uh,
So I feel like I have so much history with her, and when we get to Morrigan and I see her there, I'll probably say the same thing. Like I'm trying to rank them only within Inquisition, but it's harder for me to not see the bigger picture, if you get me, of when I look at them and I look at their story and I try to decide on them as a character. So I did have her a bit higher up, and I might get some flack when we get to Morrigan because Liliana is higher up than Morrigan, but they're I feel like they're both higher up than they kind of should be for just
Interesting.
Inquisition in my level.
Okay, you know what, Jen? I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna do anything. We're just gonna go straight to Morrigan then, because we're talking
Okay.
about it already. I am putting Morrigan, and you might not like me for this. I'm sorry. I'm putting her in best girl.
Oh my god.
Yes, I am. I am. Okay. You go. You go.
I see, but I can't though, because that you like tripped and fell into an answer that I'm trying to not give. And because I keep trying to peer pressure you into playing the other two games, I can't say anything. You have tied my hands, so I can't explain myself. But I will say that because of some stuff in her past, I did actually rank Morrigan lower than where you have her, but I
Okay.
can't say anything about that.
Okay. I'll go then. Let me give my reasoning. All right. Here we go. So the way that we're ranking characters is not based on like how good slash bad they are, right? Like I'm not
Right.
putting Corypheus at the bottom because he's the most evil, and I'm not putting I don't know. I'm not putting Sandra or Varric at the top because they're the most good, right? I'm trying to
Right.
like I'm trying to figure out who is like who's a good character, right?
Who's well written.
Yes, exactly. And I think Morrigan, and I won't lie, I can't pretend like she doesn't have some strong marks against her. Okay,
Hmm.
for one, she's introduced in like the last half of the story, which is
Yeah.
like really you're gonna introduce like a super important character like in the back half, like why, right?
Hmm.
And then on top of that, she's the one who introduces you to the Vitruvians, um, and the whole Nexus or whatever. I literally have no idea what it's called, by the way.
The crossroads.
That's what I said. Um, yeah, the deep roads. No, the
The
crossroad.
crossroads.
That's what I said. The crossroads. Um, she introduces you to the Vescuvians and like all of that, and it's really important. So she gets like a really like unfair advantage. Okay, I'll acknowledge that, right? She comes in the back half as like she's sexy. Let's not deny it, right?
I was about to say it has
Let's
nothing to
not
do with her wearing a bikini as a top and running around.
let's not. Okay, hang on. You're not wrong. Let's not beat around the bush. All right. She's sexy. She comes in at the end with like a lot of like, I'm going to introduce you to the wider world. I'm going to introduce you to the bigger plot. Like, she has all of that going for her, and she's fucking sexy. Like, I can't, I can't pretend. I'm not gonna pretend like that's not gonna affect my judgment here. Okay, it is,
Hmm.
and you can judge me, and the internet can judge me, and that's fine. You know, go ahead. I don't give a fuck. Listen, I'm kind of a simple man. When a really sexy lady comes in and says, "Hey, I'm about to carry you through the back half of this game that you need a little help being carried through." I really appreciate that. I do. I really do. There are some story elements that I feel like go into the back half of the game. I was like, wait, what the fuck? What does this mean? Like, what's the point of this? Why does this matter? That Morrigan was there to just explain to me. And I'm a simple man. I love it. I love having things explained to me by a sexy lady, you know? Um, and on top of that, if you let her drink from the well, she can turn into a dragon later, which is fucking sick as fuck.
All very good point.
I will say, I do kind of regret, and I've talked to Jen about this off stream. We've had a lengthy conversation about this. I do kind of regret not doing that myself. Regardless,
I regret it too.
yeah, regardless, that still means Morrigan gets to transform into a dragon. she still gets to have that scene where she talks to her mom, which is kind of cool. I do like that. And she just has a lot going for her in the back half of the game. And it's not all just that fact that she's wearing a bikini. Although the bikini does give her like a +2 to every to everything that she's got going on, you know what I mean? So
I we're gonna put a pin in this conversation, and if you ever play Origins, I want to come back to this. I will unpin it. Future Jen, save this clip. Save it in so many locations. Because there is a big chunk of stuff missing. Nobody tell him. There is a big chunk of something missing here with Morrigan because you don't have an Origins game to load into this. So it gives you the default, and the default's just like the simplest thing is to not include it. So there is some accessories not included here. And I would be very interested to see if that changes anything about
okay.
your feelings towards Morrigan. So
It might. It very well might. Okay. I will say this entire tier list is very not concrete. Okay. I've only played Dragon Age Inquisition. Jenn knows this. I've only done so much with these characters. There's, I bet, a lot more to learn about them. So, we may change that. And I'm going to give Jenn an opportunity at the end to reveal her own tier list, so that we can have like a little bit of an explanation from someone who has gone through a little bit more of some Dragon Age games. But for now, we're just going to kind of like focus on this. Yeah, Morrigan, super high. I love her. She is absolutely dethroned. And we're going to move on now to Vivienne, who we were okay, really funny story, guys. So before this video was recording, me and Jenn started recording a different video. However, I forgot to hit the record button. So we actually recorded like 6 characters back and forth before I actually hit the record button. So we're retreading a lot of ground here. But funnily enough, I'm gonna take Vivienne, who I think I put in mid last time. And I think I'm having discussed all the characters up to this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw Vivienne and Forgot About.
Wow.
Yeah, really, I am. And I don't feel great about it. I do feel a little bit guilty for doing it. But not guilty enough to change my decision. I think she's kind of mid. I think she's pretty mid, to the point that I actually genuinely forgot about her in the game. And I started to, week after week, I would go through. It's funny, Jenn, because here's how I would play the game, okay? I would go through my inner circle quests first. I would say, what can I knock out here before I do the what is it called? The Inquisitor's Path? Is that the main story quest? Yeah. I would say, okay, my priority is to do Inner Circle and then Inquisitor's Path and then side quests, right? That was kind of like the way that I approached the game. Vivienne hit a point where she had carried over into so many weeks that I was like, you know what? Honestly, I don't care. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do everyone else in Inquisitor's Circle or whatever. Then I'll do main story quests. Then I'll do side story quests. Then maybe I'll come back to do Vivienne's quests. I started to just really not give a fuck about Vivienne.
I mean, I see it from what I gathered from a bunch of the people that I played Inquisition with during my first playthrough. A lot of people actually don't even include Vivienne in their party. They forget,
Really?
they literally forget about her. They never find her. They never do her first enchanter quest, so she's never added to their party. So they don't do anything with her.
Okay.
Which I think my very first playthrough, before I realized I made a whole bunch of really bad decisions and then abandoned that one and started a new one. I think on the first one, I also didn't find her, but I was told about her. So I was like, I got to go find her. And I don't know. I really made it a priority to go and find Vivienne and do her quest just because it made me kind of sad. She had a really cool design, and it made me kind of sad that this is like the forgotten.
Okay,
This
she does have a great design. I will say, like, her design is amazing. Like, her robes are fantastic. Her cowl or her headpiece or whatever you want to call it is
Mhm.
amazing. She is a well-designed character. Um, she looks great, and I apologize for interrupting your flow, but like, I just had to include that she is a very well-designed character, and I think I have to point that out while we're talking about her judgment because it really goes to show like kind of how boring her side stuff was, that you can take a character that's so kind of like has such a greatly like iconic look and just make her like so kind of boring. But anyways, I'm sorry. Continue, Jen.
Yeah, no, and I wasn't a fan of most of her quests. Most of her quests, I believe you mentioned, were just kind of like fetch quests, get me these books, and then that was it. There was a couple of cutscenes in there, and da 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 da. So they weren't really fun. I did like her final quest, which I don't think you got to finish, where she wants the Wyvern heart. And it's actually, we find out all of a sudden all of this backstory. She's actually like the mistress to her true love, and he's dying, and she just wants to save him, and like she can't marry him because of like weird or lesion stuff. And then she's also a mage, and like a whole bunch of stuff happens. And I'm just kind of like, where was this during the rest of her quest? Like, I would have
Yeah.
preferred to be breadcrumbed this throughout the game. In cutscenes, don't come at me if it's in like any kind of codex entries or anything like that. I don't read in video games. That's not what
No,
they're for.
it's in. I mean, it's kind of in her intro quest, but like I think I mentioned this in the recording before I started recording.
Mhm.
That she is actually very explicit in her introduction to you, where she talks about how, hey, by the way, I am a consort to this lord, but she doesn't really explain like what the full depth of that is, like what the full
Yeah.
meaning of that is, right?
Hmm.
Like it's not clear that like, oh yeah, I'm the consort to this lord, meaning that, you know, um I am in
We're
love with,
basically married,
yeah,
and
we're basically married. I'm in love with this guy, and I will not date anyone outside of this guy. The way it comes across in the beginning is, oh, you're very sexually open, you're very sexually liberated. You're willing to like date someone who's already married. Like it's very like how open-minded of you. You know what I mean? So it comes across like incredibly different in the beginning. Um, before she gives the impression that you're kind of talking about, and which she absolutely does, by the way.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like Vivian was done a bit dirty. Also, there's something fun about just her being like sassy with you, and she has a couple of fun like I think you have enough friendship with her, so you might get to see them in Trespasser. Like they're just kind of, there's a couple of fun little moments in there that are just, she's just fun. Like she's just a fun little diva, and it just makes me sad that there wasn't a lot of substance. They crammed all of the substance into her last quest, but so many people, because of her fetch quest, don't even bother to finish anything about her. That's why I did rank her higher. I did put her in mid. Um, just because I felt bad for her. I feel like she could have done so much more.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say like there is something to my ranking system, which is that I am trying to ignore who these people are at their core, and I'm trying to kind of rank them for the presentation that they give to the Inquisitor through their playthrough, right?
Hmm.
Um, because I think there are people like Blackwall. I think actually like I think if you dig really deep into the Grey Warden lore, Blackwall is probably a really good character.
Yeah.
Like if I had to guess, um, not having done all of his quests, but just having gone through like, oh yeah, like every single member of the Grey Wardens has a bottle of whatever the fuck it is, like super vodka, and we all have these bottles of super vodka because it's the only thing that can give us any kind of like relief from being like super vigilant and super alert. So we all have these like super vodka bottles, And so if you help me find them, it'll unlock more things for me to tell you. And it's like, okay, dude, that's cool. And I bet there's a reward at the end, but like, I'm just playing a video game here. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
like, yeah. If you're the kind of person who like me, like you're just kind of playing a video game, like he's just not gonna be like the most compelling character right off the bat. And there's definitely gonna be a difference. And maybe I should have said this at the beginning. If you don't listen to everything we have to say and you're misinterpreting like where we're coming from with ranking these characters, then that's your loss. Okay. The thing is, like, every single one of these characters has a lot of depth to them, but a big part of like what goes into their ranking is how much their initial interaction or their initial impressions lead us into wanting to discover more about them. And I think that's where Vivienne, or no, that's where Blackwall really shines, in the sense that kind of a boring interaction, but leads into like probably a really deep character. But Vivienne, I think, unfortunately, suffers from a really strong impression that leads into like kind of a weak character arc. Yeah, it's just not the most interesting for me. But anyways, Jen, we're gonna go ahead and move on to, oh Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. We did this off stream unintentionally. We already recorded this, except I wasn't recording. My bad. But you know what? I'm not gonna cuck out. I'm not gonna be a coward. I'm gonna go ahead and put him exactly where I thought he belonged. I think Cole belongs in mid.
How dare you?
Yeah. Yeah. We've gone over this. Let's try to recap it real quick. So I think a big part of what puts Cole in mid for me is that I think he doesn't have a very strong intro. I think he kind of shows up out of nowhere with not much of an explanation. And you have talked about I think you've done a lot of talking about Cole that kind of has redeemed him in my eyes. But I would like to hear you kind of talk about this intro, right? Why?
I've been waiting for you to ask that, actually.
Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead and hit me with it right now. Yeah, go for it. Why does Cole show up outside of Haven telling us about a threat that we can see with our bare naked eyes? And why is that important? Go.
We sided with the mages. So we get Dorian's really cool intro because we got to go on the mages quest. But if we had picked the Templars to go do their quest and ask, like, hey, what's up with the Templars, before we make our final decision of who we're going to bring into the Inquisition, you would have gotten Cole's really cool intro, and Dorian would have been the one that runs in last minute. I mean, probably he would have still said something sassy, but then he's running in last minute going, Corypheus is up there with mages, and he's going to point to Corypheus's very obvious mages army.
I see. So I see.
The reason, so basically the reason Cole got the weaker one is because we got the B side of his intro, as opposed to the A side.
Okay, you know, okay, I can empathize with that, actually. I feel for that actually quite a lot. Fair enough. You know, big ol' fair enough for me. Yeah, I guess, you know what? That, unfortunately.
Also, what did you learn about his quest, since it's not on the record anymore, that I explained it to you about? It's not just don't kill that guy or don't kill that guy.
Okay, guys, here's the thing. All right, Jen, let me explain. All right, here we go. I'm gonna have my moment, and hopefully you're not gonna hate me for it. Okay, here we go. Ready? All right, everybody, gamers, what's up? How's it going? So, Cole, he's a companion in Dragon Age Inquisition, okay? And he has a big, chunky questline arc in which you are enlightened as to what his past is, right? And his past is that he's a spirit who befriended a young man. I'm sorry, I should say a young mage who was sentenced to confinement within one of the mage circles. Am I correct so far, Jen?
So he didn't just befriend him. The original boy was in such just pain and sorrow and anguish being forgotten about. He didn't just get put away in a tower like as a timeout. They forgot about him up there. That this spirit of compassion came to try and give him some respite from all of these horrible emotions that he was feeling.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say that I was 100% correct, and that you corroborated that. Okay. Cole. So Cole befriends this guy, this kid, who is put in this circle of mages, and is basically left there to rot by a guard who this uncaring asshole who basically totally forgets that he's there, to the point that he actually lets this kid die in this tower, abandoned and alone. And Cole, being a spirit of compassion, is so affected by this death that he actually seemingly possesses or recreates the body of this guy who this horrible tragedy happened to. Jenn, I'm gonna check in again with you. Am I
You can go with possesses. Like he ends up kind of becoming one with the boy while trying to like lift his spirits, his sorrows as like he's dying. So he can't fix it. So he tries to fix it by kind of becoming the boy.
okay? Yeah. Close enough, right? However, I guess somehow during this process of like possession or possessing this kid, he loses some memories, or it doesn't quite fully inherit them, maybe is like a better way to put it. Because he finds himself, as spirit possessing a human body, as vulnerable to being bound by a mage. And so what ends up happening is he starts pestering Solas, our resident elf mage, to bind him so that he cannot be bound by another mage. Anyways, instead of wanting to bind him, Solas is like, hey, you got to go out, you got to do something else because I'm not going to do this. So we end up going out to try to find an amulet so that Cole can be bound without actually being bound. It's kind of confusing. Even having
It's like
learned
a lock. It puts like a lock on his spirit, so no one else can possess him.
having done that, the only way to sort of like fully unlock all the levels that Cole has available to him is to take him on this personal companion quest where you take Cole along with Varric and Solas to Redcliffe in pursuit of the guard who locked the original Cole in that tower. And okay, because I don't want Jenn to have to like go over like the whole thing again, because we've already kind of been over this, I'm going to try to summarize it the best I can. Solas wants Cole to continue in being a spirit, which is in line with what Solas kind of wants, because Solas is very like pro spirit. He's pro creatures of the Fade. He's very much like in favor of keeping these people the way they are and appreciating them the way they are. Whereas Varric, not necessarily that he has anything against spirits or against creatures of the Fade, but having witnessed Cole step out of that and recognizing that Cole has taken like some few steps into becoming human, Varric suggests let's have Cole go through something that is like akin to like the human processing of emotions, right?
It's turning human.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a bad quest. I don't think that like the moral quandary there is bad or that it just makes sense. I do think, well, okay, hang on. Actually, I do think in the moment, for me, as someone who was playing Dragon Age Inquisition as my first Dragon Age game, I do think that it kind of didn't make very much sense. It is really hard to kind of distinguish like what is the difference between Cole not taking vengeance on the guy who killed him versus Cole not taking vengeance on the guy who killed him. That's something that I made clear in a video like a week or two ago. You should go ahead and check that out if you're curious and see what my thoughts were. However, I will say, like, having heard Jenn's explanation of it, having gone a little bit further into the lore of this game, I do understand a little bit more of like the distinction between the two options, where Cole has a choice to become more human versus retaining his spiritness, for lack of a better term. And I I can appreciate that. Okay. And me and Jen have talked about this off stream already, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more on stream just so that you guys all get it. But I think that a really big mistake in that quest was Varric making it kind of unclear to the Inquisitor what exactly he was doing to have Cole go down the path of being more human. Because Varric's intention at the end of it, you can look back and it's pretty clear, right? Varric kind of clearly wanted Cole to enact his revenge without actually killing the guy in a way that made Cole, more than just a compassionate being, but a being that sort of understands all of the facets of human emotion. Whereas Solas wanted to push Cole more into simply forgiving that man because that's the compassionate thing to do, and that is what a spirit of compassion should do. So I understand the difference in doing that, but I don't think that that difference was spelled out very clearly, especially if you're not very familiar with what spirits are, which I think is possible if Inquisition is your first game. If it's not, and I've heard from several of you, I've heard that like, oh, this quest is obvious, it's clear what's happening, blah 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 blah. That's fair. You're allowed to feel that way, and if Dragon Age, the game series, wants to cater to people like you, fair enough. That's fine. Maybe it's not for me. That's fine. But I'm really just talking as a person who started with Inquisition, who actually really likes Inquisition. You know, it's not like starting with Inquisition has made me not like the story or anything. I really like the story. But yeah, I mean, I think that division, I think the way that I think Jen, it's funny because I feel really bad for saying this because I'm kind of stealing a lot of your thunder here with my explanation of it. But I think Jen said earlier, like, there's something about the blocking. And by blocking, we mean like the position of the camera on the characters and like who and what is in frame. But the blocking of the characters in this quest, I think really does a big disservice to it because it doesn't let you know that Varric is giving Cole like a false sense of like emotional advancement from the get-go. And I feel like if it had, I feel like the quest would have landed for me a lot better. But Jen, is there anything I left out? You go ahead and tell me how you feel about this.
Well, first and foremost, I really wanted to clear up Cole's quest because it has been killing me. It has ever since we recorded that episode, and the fact that I couldn't explain to you everything that was going on until you understood more of the lore, and then making sure that I'm not going to spoil anything. And I think you explained it best. If you're going to steal my stuff, I'm going to steal yours. But it's like showing a friend like a video or a song that you really, really enjoy, and then you're just watching them not get it. And the part that you encapsulated so well was just like, well, worst case scenario, like the video's like what, 2 minutes? It's like a 3-minute song. You just sit there awkwardly for like 3 minutes, then everybody forgets about it. No harm, no foul. This has been on my mind and taking up bandwidth there for weeks. So the fact that we have just been able to correct that is a whole bunch of just like weight lifted off of me. But the getting past that, now that you understand that, I think the other thing too is that I don't think you spent enough time with Cole to truly understand what it means for him to be so full of compassion. You got snippets here and there in his cutscenes and things like that. Like he's just like a weird kid that says weird things all the time. But if you like really pay attention to the insight and things that he does for people, where I think like for Leliana, once he starts becoming more human, he's just like, oh no, but as a spirit, who is going to sneak like honey into her tea because that's the way that she likes it. There's another like almost like mini quest where you get to see some of the things that Cole is doing, where it's just like, oh my god, who left like fish heads in, I don't know, it's like the quad of like Skyhold. And he's just like, the cat really enjoys that because he's hungry and da 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 da. And he just does a whole bunch of like really endearing things. And watching the other characters too, because Iron Bull, as we discussed, is just like a big old dad. Like he also, and we've seen his aversion to everything magic and like the fade. So he also kept Cole as at like arm's length. But we see just about everybody slowly fall in love with this boy, this just awkward, weird little boy. He's not a little boy, but like he is to me. Like
No,
this
he
weird
is.
boy.
He actually is a little boy. Actually, like okay. I totally respect like everything you're saying. Go ahead and finish. But like when you're done, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna say like he is a little boy, and that's actually part of why I don't like him. But go ahead, finish what you're saying.
But like yeah, like you get to see everyone just kind of fall in love with him as well. The only person that doesn't is Sera, and I'm always a little bit bitter towards her because he doesn't have a bad bone in his body. He's just so sweet, and I love him so much. And I kept him a spirit because if I can't romance him, nobody's allowed to romance him. So yeah, I just really love Cole.
Fair enough. And you know what? I do think, and I will say this, and I said this, I think I said this off stream or off recording, pre-show. A big part of, I think, what annoyed me about Cole was that I played the game without helmets. Yeah. And I think Cole without his helmet lacks a lot of characterization, right? I think Cole with the big hat comes across as like a shy boy. In a way that's like very endearing. Whereas if you see him without his helmet, he comes across as like an unshowered boy, which is like a lot less endearing, a lot more annoying. And I will say too, as well, I think there's a quest towards the beginning, and this is one that I did get and I did do, where you go and you talk to this lady who works in the kitchens in Skyhold, and she's like, yeah, we're like totally out of like fucking food. Like we don't have any food. And I've seen some giant mice before. Like, and even if those giant mice had all banded together, there's no way they could have all stolen like the food that we had in here. And the remarkable thing about this food is that all of this food is like meat that is taken from like particularly sad cows or something, right? And then so you're like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, wait, hang on. So you source all of your meat from particularly sad cows? Okay, Cole 1,000,000% took that meat. Like I 1,000,000% get it.
Yeah.
And so you go to him and you're like, hey Cole, why did you take our entire food supply away? You stupid asshole. And he's like, well, because it made me sad. And it's like, okay, Cole, I think you can go fuck yourself. Like you like, I'm sorry, like I know you like him, I know you're being like whatever, but like Cole reminds me of like, I'm trying to like, okay, considering like the whole like dialogue around Dragon Age, especially like the Veilguard lately, with like all of the like, this is woke and whatever, and like we talked about that a little bit off stream, and I'm not the biggest fan of that dialogue, and I don't necessarily want to weigh in on that, but like I will say, when it comes to like when it comes to like really obnoxious progressive messaging, which I'm actually like fairly okay with, actually, you know, maybe surprisingly to some of my viewers, when it comes to that kind of messaging, Cole kind of strikes me as the kind of kid who's like, because he's a vegan, he won't let anyone in his family eat meat. Like that's the kind of vibe I get from him, and it actually like kind of annoys me. And that's why I feel very comfortable leaving Cole in mid, despite Jenn's. And I'll admit it's pretty well reasoned, and I think there's a lot of characterization behind the character, but like it just annoys me a little bit. Like Cole is such like a vegan pacifist that he has to like kind of make everybody like feel ashamed for their choices. It kind of annoys me. I'm not gonna lie, it does. It annoys me a little bit. And I kind of just want him to like pipe down and go away. So that's why I put Cole in mid. Jenn, if you want to talk with me more about this at the end, we talked about this off stream, but like we may do a little bit of a reshuffle at the end, but let's go ahead and wait for that, okay? I think you've done a pretty good job here. I do feel like Cole has been pretty humanized for me. Well, I don't
I
know.
mean, you can be wrong. This is your list, so it's totally fair for you to be wrong. You just have to live with that. So
Okay.
that's just, and if you keep saying mean things about him, I will quit.
Okay.
So there's
Okay.
that.
Yikes. Okay, Jesus Christ. Okay, Cole. Phew, best boy.
Oh no, that's wow.
um
That's I put him too.
amazing. Um I'm gonna leave him in mid. I cannot listen. I cannot betray how I feel, but we will revisit this. All right. I'll give you that. All right.
All right.
All right. Red Jenny, Sera. Um, I included this ma'am. I included this girl in a lot of my quests. Um, and I think it's because she kind of led me on into believing that there could be some kind of a romance between us. By the way, I'm at the end of the game. No romance has started between us. The most she has given me is maybe. Um, but you know what? I don't think that's necessarily her fault. And I do think she's really good company, actually, when it comes to being in your party. I think she says things that makes other people react in ways that are like actual and real. And so because of that, I'm going to put her in pleasant company. Jen, how do you feel?
Um. Yeah, Sarah was a bit annoying at the beginning when I first kind of started playing with her and having her in the party. She was never one of my go-tos. I definitely didn't have her as much as you did. I did have her in my party just because I really like it when everybody likes my main character. So I would have her just enough so that I could have her approval high enough that she was friends with me.
Yeah, actually,
Um,
I think that's kind of why I had her because I think she was very judgmental towards elves, which I did not
yeah.
appreciate because I'm an elf in the game.
Mhm.
My character's an elf, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that she was so disapproving towards elves. So I think that's part of why I kept including her in my party was like, hey, I'm going to keep you in this party, and by the end of this, you're going to be like, oh, elves are totally fine. Elves are totally cool. I'm not racist against elves anymore. Like I think that was a big part of why I kept her in my party. Um, I don't think that ever panned out, but
It did not.
yeah,
I mean, she does end up being pretty good friends with us. Like if you just kind of keep her around as like a friendship,
uh,
just kind of overall. I will say, coming right off of Cole, I am salty towards her because she is the only character that never warms up to Cole. Um, but that is kind of almost canceled out by the fact that Sarah is the only character that you can tell to leave the Inquisition at literally any point in the game, even like right before the final boss fight,
yeah.
or like not the final boss fight, but like the final fight with
No,
Corypheus.
yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, you have that option the entire time.
And I feel like that's so messed up to do that to her and only her,
You
because
think
I
so?
don't.
Because I feel like okay, I hear what you're saying. I totally get it, and in a way, I do agree with you. But I also feel like, in a way, it kind of proves like a strength of hers, where she is kind of like obnoxious. She is abrasive, and like oftentimes in a way that's kind of made to like make you dislike her, right? Like, let's say you're out
Yeah.
in the wild and you're talking to elves. She is the kind of party member to be like, I don't even know if we should fucking talk to these elves. Fuck them. You know, like she's the kind of person to say that. Um,
Mhm.
and yet you can boot her at any time. So she really has to like kind of rely on like your goodwill. I don't know. In that way, I think I've kind of like found her kind of endearing because it's like, listen, you're being honest with me. Like I don't have the option to boot you, which means like you have full freedom to tell me exactly how you feel about anything. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't know. I kept her right around where she was, where you have her.
Uh
She just she grew on me a bit. Her
yeah.
laugh is still annoying.
Yeah,
but it's
that's true.
fine.
Yeah,
But it's
no,
fine.
her laugh is annoying. However, and I think I mentioned this pre-show, um, I think one thing that redeems a lot of bad voice actors for me is that bad voice actors tend to lean into like the Cockney accent. And
Mhm.
that for me as a streamer is very fun to imitate and mock. So I enjoy that actually quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think her voice actor was bad, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, like Sarah was fun. I did like the friendship quest that we got to do with her where we played pranks on everybody. Like that was fun.
it was cute actually. Yeah,
So yeah, she's cute. She's a fun little character. I definitely her interactions with like Iron Bull and Blackwall warmed me up to her. Like I started to like her because they started to like her.
yeah,
So I was kind of like, okay, I guess there's something there. And that's kind of like you only becomes friends with people because your friends became friends with them.
yeah.
That's kind of how it started. But yeah, she's all right, but she definitely gets like a big grain of salt with her dislike of Cole.
I will say one thing that I am interested in with Sarah and with well, I'm generally interested with this with a lot of characters, but with Sarah in particular, I'm really curious to see where the friends of Red Jenny end up in Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Like
Right.
if that continues to be like a faction or a group or an organization or whatever the fuck, um,
Hmm.
like do they continue to be a thing? Does my do my decisions regarding Sarah, do they affect the presence of the Red Jenny people in the next game? I think like
Right.
that's one thing that I was telling you this pre-show, but like one thing that I've been thinking a lot lately, as in like the past like one or two playthroughs of Inquisition, is where are these decisions going to leave me in the next game? Because it seems unlikely that everything is going to resolve by the end of the Trespasser DLC. Um, it feels like there's stuff that's like, oh, this is meant to create like a long lasting effect. So like, what is that effect? You know, and I'm curious,
Right.
and I think that like I wonder if like we could see Sarah go on to be like a really interesting character in the next game. I think that might be really cool. Um, so that's why like even though I'm putting her as like kind of like mid tier for this game, I think like there's potential for sure. You know,
Yeah.
for her to grow. But yeah, but no, let's move on. We've got three. Holy shit, we've got three really big characters. Okay, Jen, let's try not to take like let's try not to take too much time with these guys. Um,
All right.
I think pretty easy actually. The first one, Varric, best boy, unquestioned.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no question. He's everything. He is an absolute Renaissance man. Um, he is a rogue. He is a bard. He is an author. He has a sick fucking crossbow that is named after like an unrequited love of his, who I literally just heard the story of this week. And hearing that story absolutely broke my heart and made me feel for Varric in a way that I I'm almost like ashamed or like almost like a little bit embarrassed to admit how human and how relatable that was. Um yeah, I mean there have been video games in like there have been video games in recent years that have like elicited tears from me. I did not think Dragon Age Inquisition would be one of them, and I think pretty safe in that assumption up until hearing that story. That one really fucking got me. Um yeah, Varric is just like amazing. I am gonna keep. I'm not only putting him in best boy, I'm putting him at the front of best boy like intentionally. He is, I think, the best character in the game. Go ahead, Jen. Fight me on this.
He's no, absolutely. He's the man that has it all. You forgot he has a dead best friend that you
Okay,
did. You did that.
I intentionally left that out. You didn't have to bring
Hmm.
that up. Okay,
Hmm.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I love Varric. Like there's clearly like for the people that have been here for the long haul waiting for Veilguard to come out, it's completely understandable why they kept using Varric in all of their marketing, why he was always the voiceover character, why if anything was coming, it was coming from Varric, because he's so loved. He might actually be the most loved character in the entire franchise. I'm not sure, but I feel pretty safe in saying that. And it's a completely earned. It's completely well earned in all of its spots. Everything that happens in Dragon Age 2, and then seeing him come back in Inquisition with just so much. He's just amazing. I love this character. The writing has always been consistent with him. He has always been just the best friend that you could ever ask for. And a couple of my friends are super upset that he's never been a romanceable character. And I think seeing him new through your eyes is kind of like, I get it. I get why there is so much unrequited fanfic love for him, for Varric, why we've been waiting for years. And I really hope nothing bad happens to this man in the next in the next game, because I can only imagine the wailing in the streets that will happen. But I choose not to think about it and just think about him as best boy as he is.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. Who knows? Who knows what happens? But I will say, as a Varric newcomer, I don't think I'm totally gonna lose it if he eats it in the next game. But it depends on how he goes.
Right.
Because I can absolutely see Varric as just being like, if Varric ends up sacrificing himself for you, the main character, I'm sorry, hang on. I started that sentence with I think, and that's wrong. It will make me cry. I will cry. And I think it would absolutely fit the character. Because I think he is just like, oh my god, I'm gonna start crying in this video. God damn it. Okay. I think Varric is selfless in a way that is like so so valuable and so precious and so kind of like underappreciated. I think there are a lot of people who will see characters who are more or less like pacifists, and they'll see those characters kind of like sacrifice themselves for other people. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, they sacrifice themselves for me, or they sacrifice themselves for the group, and whatever, it is meaningful. It hits me in the feels, but like, they were pacifists. Of course they were going to. Varric is not a pacifist. Varric is absolutely a warrior through and through. He is. That may not be his class. He may be a rogue, right? Technically in canon, but like, he's a warrior. He's there to put himself on the line for others. And there's something so like romantic and beautiful about that. I don't even think I can actually do this character fully justice. I don't think I can go through it. And I don't want to disappoint everybody in the audience and just like say like, oh, I love him, he's perfect, blah blah blah. So I'll just say like, the thing that really sold me, that really pushed me over the edge, because I've liked Varric through pretty much the entire playthrough. Since the first time he called Solas, our Baldo friend, Chuckles, I've loved Varric. But I think the thing that really pushed me over the edge was hearing him talk about his own sort of relationship with Bianca, where she's married to someone else, and I don't even think he admits this in the conversation. I don't think he admits that he loves her, but he does talk about how like, well, we can't really be together because she's kind of married to someone else and blah 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 blah.
No. He absolutely does, because if you go back, trust me, I have studied these scenes.
Okay.
If you go back, he doesn't say that she's married to someone else. He just says that like, oh, her parents set her up with a different dwarf.
Oh,
because,
that's
again,
right.
Remember,
he does.
Varric,
Yeah, he does.
Varric has his own dwarven bad boy stuff that he does in the culture of dwarves.
Right.
Especially being he's a
surface guy.
dwarf.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So he says that like, oh yeah, and like the wedding was wonderful, or at least the one that she went to. So that
Oh,
implies
right,
that they
yeah.
were going to get married, but she instead either was forced to or convinced or made the decision to marry the other guy. We don't know
Yeah.
what happened exactly, at least not in game. I know there's other reading material and comic books and stuff like that outside the game that might flesh this out, but I live in the canon of only game. Um, but at some point, a decision was made, and she did not marry Varric. So that implies that there was going to be a wedding between him and Bianca, and she did not show up
Yeah.
to the wedding. So they just get these weird little stolen moments where if she's like caught with him or like on the surface and stuff, like if she's stepping out of line according to dwarven law, then she could also be punished and like exiled to the surface or whatever, not seeing her family and whatnot again. And he
Yeah.
doesn't want that for her. So
You,
they just get these weird little stolen moments together.
yeah, you know what it kind of reminded me of? And
Hmm.
it's really not comparable. This is probably gonna be like a dumb comparison, so don't take this like don't tear me apart after this, okay, Jen? Get ready. Um have you seen Puss in Boots: The Last Wish?
Yeah.
Okay, it kind of reminds me of that,
Mm-hmm.
where Puss in Boots is set to marry, I totally forgot her fucking name.
Kitty
Uh,
softball.
Thank you, Kitty Softpaws. He's set to marry her, but he gets cold feet and he runs away and he doesn't end up marrying her. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just like a sad state of affairs. And obviously, I don't think like Varric and Bianca is like a 1-to-1 to that. Obviously, for like a bunch of reasons.
Right.
But the way in which it reminds me of that is that it's like it's a marriage that should happen. These two
Mm-hmm.
clearly have like feelings for each other. They clearly like, even if like marriage maybe isn't like, you can have like whatever qualms with a marriage between them if you want, but like the idea that they should have given their relationship a chance at the very least is so
Mm-hmm.
like self-evident. And the fact that they didn't is just, it's just sad to me. It's sad to me in the way that like, I don't want, and no, I can't talk about it. It's fine. It's just sad to me.
Okay.
It's
Varric
just,
is just
it's just sad to me. And it comes across as like, I don't know. There are times when you see someone who has like a real shot at something that's at a real relationship and it doesn't happen. It just makes you really sad. And that's what Varric has, you know? Um,
yeah.
I'm gonna leave it at that. I think we've done enough on Varric. I need to try and move on. I think we spent a little bit too much time on him. I love my dwarf boy, and I will kill anyone for him. Literally any of you, I will rip. We've got two guys left. Jen, do you have a preference between Dorian and Solas?
I think we should do Dorian next.
Okay, let's do him. I'm gonna go ahead and put him in best boy territory. Do you have any disagreements with me here?
I don't. I will say though, for me, Iron Bull is right up there in best boy territory with him, just because they're phenomenal individually, but they're
Mhm.
just so fucking cute together. Like it's such a fun romance. It's such fun banter. If you love the banter that they have individually with other people, like them together is just, I could watch entire cutscenes where nothing else happens except for just them bantering back and forth. I love it so much. At one point, Andrew, we get to them calling each other pet names in their native tongue, and
Oh,
it's just the cutest fucking thing. I can't with them.
yeah.
I can't possibly put Dorian in best boy without his boyfriend, and I couldn't possibly have Iron Bull there either without Dorian.
Oh. Yeah, okay, I feel you. I don't know if I'm gonna have to think about repositioning and stuff, but I feel what you're saying. I totally get it. Um, yeah, that's super cute. Um, but yeah, I will say real quick, just because I think I talked about it actually last week in the Dragon Age Diary thing. Um, but in case you missed that, I will say real quick, Dorian, mega fucking gay. Um, which is not actually like a huge plot point in most of the game. As someone who played a female elf, I got plenty of times to flirt with Dorian, and it was really fun. It was cute. Um, However, when we got to the point where someone set him up to meet his dad, like unexpectedly, it was really, really it just really, really like drove home like a very human side of him to see him go from a guy who's like got it all together, who's like very aloof, very charming, very in control most of the time, to being confronted with his dad and instantly swapping to being like very like filled with rage and very impulsive all of a sudden. Like um we talked about this a little bit off the recording, but like yeah, seeing Dorian make that change, it's not just like impressive writing. The voice actor actually like sells it incredibly well. It's so good. Um and yeah, I don't think I can place Dorian on the tier list without mentioning his quest, because I really do think like there are a lot of side quests in here, and I neglected to mention most of them, but I think I have to talk about Dorian's um just because I think it's probably one of, if not the best side quest in the game. There's one that Iron Bull has that I didn't mention earlier, where you have to you're placed with a decision between choosing between the Chargers, which is his small group of mercenaries that he's kind of loyal to, versus making a pact with the Cunari, which is his his nation, his people. Um, and I think the right decision there is, it's pretty obvious, because you've gone through, at this point you've gone through multiple quests where like you've sat down, you've had beers with like his Chargers, you've gotten to know them, you've gotten to form this connection with them. um, and I think that really adds to the quest and makes it really good. But at the same time, I don't really have like, there's no analog, there's no equivalent with Dorian, right? There's no
Mhm.
quests where like, or I mean, Jen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, please. But like, I mean, other than the fact that he's like a little bit flamboyant, like there's nothing to really tell you that like Dorian is like a very strictly gay person. Um, and so when you get to that quest with his dad, and it's revealed that like his family has kind of rejected him because he's gay. However, his dad is kind of reaching out back to him because he doesn't want to lose this connection with his son. Like, oh god, it just really hits me. Um,
Well, see, you're missing a small part of it. And I don't know if it's because you didn't see it in a cutscene or if that was in a different interaction, like that was a question or something that
uh,
you didn't ask. So it's not just that his family like, ew, you're gay, like be away from our house, right? Like
yeah,
into Winter, because he's part of the Magisters. He's in a family that's the Magister, so they're very high ranking level, almost like
right,
government official type people. And to Venture, especially with the Magisters, like they're basically trying to eugenics their version of like the perfect mages, the perfect Magisters.
right. No,
And
he does
Dorian,
explain that actually. Yeah,
yeah. So he is like the distilled, at least up until his generation, he is like the distilled perfection, both in power, like in his magical abilities, and in his physical appearance. Like they are supposed to be kind of like perfect in every way.
yeah,
Dorian's one like error, his one mistake, his one like factory malfunction is that he's gay, because the
yeah,
whole point is that they need to reproduce the next generation of magisters that are going to also come out even more perfect than the last. And that's difficult when you're not interested in someone that can help you with that goal. So Dorian's dad actually tried to do blood magic on Dorian to ungay him, and that's what caused Dorian to leave for the Inquisition. That's why he left to Venter. That's why, like, he basically tried to use conversion therapy on him.
I know, actually, now that you mention that, I do kind of remember that. But
Yeah.
the way that they mention that, I think in game is a little bit like, um, I don't know what the right word, like subtle. He kind of subtly
Hmm.
mentions that. It's not like, I think he doesn't like spell it out super fucking clearly. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
he
no.
does say it. He does say it. I think he does say that like my dad tried to like fix me or something like
Hmm.
in a way using blood magic. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, and I think that like that really lands in that quest where it's like it's just like it's one of those things where it God, I just really felt that quest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Because it.
I'm just
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm just trying to add more to it of more reasons because I love that quest as well. I love Dorian as a character too. Like he's when not with Solas because I need some Fade stuff to be going on or I need some Elven history or something for a certain quest.
Yeah.
He is my go-to mage.
Yeah.
Like I love him so much, and the fact that this again very subtly and it I know it you talked about it too with woke of like it's so easy to tread into almost like after school territory, like after school special territory
Yeah. Like message
in
incoming kind of territory.
mhm.
Yeah.
And the way like I didn't even catch it during my first playthrough of what blood magic like he did blood magic on me was for. I think it was my second playthrough that like I caught it. I'm like, oh my god, that's conversion therapy. He tried to conversion therapy you. Like
Yeah.
that's insane.
I think I didn't even really catch on. I think that's why like yeah, no, I think you're explaining to me now and it's kind of
Hmm.
registering, but I think he mentioned something about that, but I don't think it fully registered with me during that cutscene where he says something about like his dad trying to fix him. Um,
Yeah.
but I think you're right because I think he does. I think he says it in a way that's kind of subtle. Like I don't think he spells it out clearly the first time, saying like my dad used this spell on me. I don't think he says that. I think he says something like, "Oh, and my dad tried to fix me" or something like that. Right?
Hmm.
I think he says something that's like a little bit more subtle. That's not like
Hmm.
100% clear, but it's like, yeah, I guess looking back on it now, it's like, yeah, no, I mean, the only thing he could really be talking about is blood magic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
And like
yeah, go ahead.
but like catching that and then coming into the scene understanding like why he's so angry he was tricked into talking to his father and just everything kind of going on there like everything just it the dominoes are set so well for that climax of talking with his father and I totally understand people that are just like I didn't have Dorian talk with his dad like I totally get that um but I know for me, I did have him go and try to fix the relationship with his dad, and it's just doesn't matter which one you go with. Like the story is written so well for him, and in such a like it's not even nuanced. It's just it's done in such a human way that's not super advertising the fact that this is a gay story. And like you mentioned, there's not a lot besides his impeccable style and some slight flamboyance that he has to really say like this is a gay character. Same with Sera. Like there's nothing here that like screams lesbian.
Yeah.
They're just characters that happen to be gay.
Yeah.
And the stories are well done, especially with Dorian because his is a bit more specific around that. They're just done so well that they don't feel preachy. They just feel like this is another in the middle of all this Inquisition shit. This is just another thing that he has to deal with, and like we don't have time for this because the sky is falling.
Yeah.
But
No,
it's
it
just
really
done so well.
that's such a perfect point to make with Dorian, right? Where it's like I think sometimes we were talking about this pre-show where because we were talking a little bit about like how there's like a little bit of this like oh is Dragon Age woke kind of discourse has been going on lately. And um first of all, like of course it is. Like it's a super woke game. No shit. no, no fucking shit. Of course it is. Like I don't think it's a bad thing. But it's like I think the way it's more important, like whether or not the story is woke, I don't even really give a fuck. Um, and I think if you, well, we'll say that for a different video. Never mind. But I will say, like for me personally, like I don't care so much about like what the message of the story is, as much as I care about like how it's presented and how it's told. And
Hmm.
I think I think Dorian is such a perfect example of like um a story being told in a way that's like because he wants to get out of there. You know, he doesn't want to talk to his dad. And he almost kind of like it's so excusable because of like the overarching threat of what's going on in the story at the time, where it's like, yeah, I could very understandably just say like, fuck it, okay, let's not talk to your dad, then let's leave. That to take that time to be the kind of person to give him that time to say like, hey, like you should talk to your dad. You only get one of those. And I will say also, like it is a little bit hard for me to look at this story like completely objectively as a person who is a dad who has a kid. Like I will say in the years that I've had a kid, like stories that involve like fathers and their children, like they just hit me so much differently, you know. And I think this story is kind of like no exception, where it's like, yeah, like on one level it's like, Dorian, I love you, and like I want you to not like throw away your family when you don't have to. And on another level it's like, it's your dad, you know, and like, why you should love your dad because like I'm a dad and I love my kid so much, you know. And it's like yeah, it just hit me like so hard, you know, because of that.
Yeah,
I think it's like, but I don't want it. I don't want people to get confused. I don't want them to think like, oh, this story only is good because I'm a dad and I liked it because of that. Like that's not it. Like me being a dad is just like a force multiplier, you know? Like it's
absolutely. And I will say, I was wondering about that. I've been meaning to ask you about that.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's a really strong story on its own, but it's one of those things where like I think being a dad, yeah, I mean, like I already kind of said it. It's a force multiplier. If the story is good, you know, it's gonna make it more impactful. Like there are there are like movies and things where you know the relationship between like a dad and a child maybe like would kind of like get me in the feels a little bit before, but now because I am a dad I'm just like, oh my god, this doesn't just kind of hit me in the feels, this is the most important story that's ever been told. You know what I mean? Like that's absolutely true, but at the same time like there are stories where someone like is struggling with something with their dad, but because it's not told in an interesting way, I just don't give a fuck. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, so it's just a force multiplier, you know. The story's not good without it. Without the base story being good, it really doesn't matter. It's not gonna have an effect on me, I think. But because Dorian's story, because his interaction comes down to being with his dad, I think I think it really hits just that much harder. It is really good. Can we move on to Solas? Are we good to move on to Solas?
I think so. I would prefer it if you put Solus in the ranking, and then I will show you where I put him.
Yeah, you're gonna put Solas in your ranking. And by the way, guys, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in this recording, uh, because we did two different recordings. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but Jenn has her own sort of ranking, her own tier list of all the characters that we're gonna go ahead and examine at the end of this. Um, so let's go ahead and get Solas out of the way so that we can see that. I am going to put Solas. I think I am going to put Solas. I think, Jesus Christ, Jenn, are you ready?
Yeah.
I think, God, I have to think about this character so much. I will say, I am actually, funnily enough, I am really glad that we kind of had to redo this list a little bit, and I got to put Solas at the end because it gave me a lot of time to think about him. Okay, I have a
Hmm.
lot of thoughts about Solas. Okay,
People usually do.
yeah, namely bald.
Hmm.
Okay, secondly, no hair, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then thirdly, uh zero hair is bald. Okay?
Yeah,
Um
that's fair.
yeah, those are my top 3 thoughts about him. And that's why I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put him in. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put Solas in. He is a real trooper.
Mm.
Shock and awe. Okay, are you guys ready?
Mhm.
Here's the thing about Solas. Okay, here's the thing. Or I'm sorry, here's the things. I'm going to explain them one at a time. Okay, one, bald. Okay, and I'll never let that fucking go. I'm so sorry.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Two, two. I think comes across very, um, I think comes across very inhuman because of his attachment to spirits and the Fade, right?
Mhm.
I think, and that's obviously intentional, right? No fucking shit, right? Like all he fucking talks about is like, yeah, I have these spirits, and all I do is dream all the time because I want to be in the Fade, right? Fucking hates humans. Get it? I get it. You know, he doesn't like us mortal beings. I get it. Okay. Third, though, has actual real loyalty to people that he cares about and feels real feelings um, about them. And I think that's why I bump him up. I would have put him in mid had it not been
Mhm.
for this, right? Um,
Okay.
I think Solas was a very mid character in a lot of this game. Okay. Did not care for him very much. I know you. I think you had. I think he kind of just fit within your like romantic taste. I'm sorry, Jen, but I'm going to call you out on that. All right. I think he kind of fit.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
All right. I think he kind of fit within your romantic taste of being like a professor, a college professor who has like a romance with one of his students. Um, in the sense that he's very like lectury to you. He has like a little bit of a superiority complex in all of his interactions with you. Um, in the sense that he feels like he seems like he feels like he has to educate you. And then at the very end, he has that cutscene where he tells you, by the way, you're an elf, and the markings on your face are the marks of a slave, and you should let me remove them. Right?
Yeah.
Just like a very kind of like I get where he's coming from, and I don't even necessarily think he's wrong in what he's saying, but also just comes across as like kind of controlling in that way. Um,
Mhm.
in a way that's like kind of like, a little, it gives me a little bit of the ick, as the kids say, right?
Right.
But I think that all lends to his characterization very well because I don't think that he's actually like trying to be controlling. Um, I think that it feels as though he's really trying to. I think he has a vision of justice that maybe doesn't align with everybody else's, but that he believes in strongly, right? And
Mhm.
so strongly, in fact, that you being like his leader and nobody else like being his friend or whatever, nobody's gonna get in his way of enacting it. Like this is a feeling of justice that he feels to his core. Um, that quest that you have with him where you go to check on his spirit friend who has been turned into a demon by that little group of mages, um,
Right.
in which he ends up like burning them all alive, like Anakin Skywalker style, is absolutely like, um, it is like disturbing in the best way. You know, I love that quest.
Yeah, this is a shockingly accurate, I think, representation of everything that the game developers were trying to do with this character. Like I'm pretty sure you just read out his synopsis
Yeah.
um of everything that he is kind of meant to be.
Yeah, I did. While we were paused actually, I actually pulled up his synopsis and I read that off right now. Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. That was suspiciously insightful for you.
Yeah. Wow. Whoa. Hold on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Um, yeah, no. As a character, Solus is he's very interesting. Yeah, I did state that, and that was just kind of my gut reaction to it after having a couple of flirty interactions with him is just the fact that he loves it when all you do is ask him questions so he can be smarter than you. All he does is lecture you. even like him hanging out in his little area in Skyhold, like he's just depicting murals of like Elvin's past and stuff. Like everything really screams, to me anyway, like college professor and like the young ingenue student that's just like, oh my gosh, you were just so amazing. Please say more smart things at me. I will say that that's not necessarily the romantic part that I partook in. If you actually go back and notice in any of, I don't know, if you rewatch some of your old footage or something, or some of the videos that I cut, they're in a playlist on your YouTube. You'll notice that Solas actually speaks in iambic pentameter. He speaks Shakespeare, like the rhythm of his words and everything.
Okay.
And a lot of his dialogue is actually kind of built around the song Hallelujah.
Really?
So that's,
Okay.
yeah, so that's like legit the rhythm of him speaking to you. Um, so that did a lot of heavy lifting for our dear Solas when it came to me romancing him, because something that I will go ahead and share with you is that a friend of mine, when I first was going to play Inquisition after the first two games, was just like, wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be funny if you romanced the egg? Because that is what the fandom calls him, because that's what he looks like. Because he's bald.
Yeah. Okay.
He is the egg.
That makes sense. Or egg or cue ball. Yeah, I would take either.
Yeah, so we go with egg. So it was just like, wouldn't it be funny if you romance the egg? And I was just like, all right, sure, why not? And then he started speaking Shakespeare at me, and I was just like, okay, let's go ahead and let's see this out. Let's see what's going on here. So that's more of where that happened. But so I think it's time to share my ranking.
Yeah, no, I think so.
Um,
If let's go ahead, let's touch on each one. I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of read through it comparatively.
sure.
And if you want to interrupt me at any time, you go ahead and you just stop me, okay?
Sure.
Okay. So we're gonna start with so my best boy slash girl, I've got four, okay?
Mhm.
Now I've got Varric, Harding, Morrigan, and Dorian.
Mhm.
Yours doesn't look totally dissimilar. We share a few, okay?
Yeah.
You've
Mhm.
got Varric, Harding, Dorian. Those are the three we
Mhm.
share. But you've also put Cole and Iron Bull up there, okay? Now I'm
Yeah.
going to go ahead and I'm going to say Iron Bull, I totally understand.
Mhm.
Um and he's one that I may consider reshuffling for myself. Although to be honest, I kind of like the distribution that I've got going on. So I may
That's
not.
fair.
Yeah. So we'll see where that lands. Um but you've got Cole way up higher than I do.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So without going into like his whole backstory and all the quests and stuff, because I did play through the quests in my defense,
Mhm.
what do you think are some of the few things that maybe distinguish Cole for you from my experience? Like,
So right away, obviously Varric is best boy when counting the entire series. But
yeah,
I really tried to knock a few points off of Varric just because I know I'm coming in with Dragon Age 2 nostalgia.
yeah,
So I did move him down a bit just because, again, I'm trying to not include the journeys of other characters. So then that leaves kind of our ranking here. Obviously, Scout Harding would be higher up if we had more time to spend with her, or if our flirting actually did anything besides offering more options to flirt. If we could have done a full on romance, she probably would have been higher up. Dorian and Iron Bull are kind of after Varric, and again, I can't have one without the other. But I do like Iron Bull just slightly more than Dorian, so that's where he is. And then Cole, my sweet boy. I love him so much. And I told you, I fall really easily into the pitfall of loving a person even more when there are other people kind of telling me how great they are. And that's kind of what happened with Cole. The fact that everybody, and I do mean all of your companions and then your friends at the war table as well, minus Sera, like everybody ends up having their soft spot for Cole. He's just such a universally, minus Sera, loved character in world that I just, he's just, I just love him so much. There's the fact that he's also kind of like a spirit of compassion, and yeah, he does things wrong, but to me it's a bit more endearing. Yeah, it can be kind of annoying sometimes, but once you find out where it's coming from, it's just, I can forgive that. I can forgive that. And I'm also a sucker for the like puppy dog eyes underneath like a big hat type of look.
I do
So
think that look carries
yeah.
Cole very far. And I do think that that's part of why I said this before. I do think
Hmm.
that's part of why I I cared for him a little bit less, is because for a lot of my playthrough he did not have that hat. Yeah, I think the big puppy dog eyes underneath the big hat works really well. But I think big puppy dog eyes underneath like clearly unwashed, greasy, disgusting fuck incel hair. Yeah, I don't think it works as well. But yeah, you go ahead and continue. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, it's just it's a lot of that. Like there's, I feel like with Cole, you either get this character or you don't.
Uh,
And that's not to say that there isn't some middle ground. Clearly you've found it. Um, but I feel like that's kind of it. Like you either get him as a character and you just find him so unbelievably endearing, or you just don't. He's just some kind of weirdo that sometimes you bring around because you have to, or kind of like things more along those lines. And I just so happen to fall into the camp where he is just the sweetest, to the point that even Varric is like dad to him, along with Solas. Is just, you can't not. Varric gave his stamp of approval to him too. And it's like,
yeah, I will
this is worth
say,
it.
I think Cole could have, minus his interaction with other characters, for
Mhm.
me, could have been completely forgotten about. Um,
Right.
but I think Varric taking him under his wing was really cute.
Mhm.
Um, had I seen a little bit more of that, I think I would have probably bumped Cole up a bit. Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Yeah, and that's like, there is no real reasoning here. Again, I feel like either you get him and he's endearing, or he's just like some weird boy. So I can't defend myself more than that. I refuse to.
Fair
I just won't do it.
enough.
You don't like it, you can find a new editor, I guess.
Okay, Jen, let's not be hasty. Okay, Jesus. Okay, but let's move on to our A tier, or I'm sorry, our A real trooper tier. So you've gotten Morrigan in here, um,
Hmm.
which I totally understand because obviously I love Morrigan, but I feel like you maybe have her here for slightly different reasons. Do you wanna tell me about those?
Yeah, so again, trying to not take into consideration everything that Morgan has already been through. I know it hinted a bit when we met with her mother,
Right. Yeah.
Flemeth. I know a lot more about her relationship with her mother than you do. And again, that missing accessory that she does not have, which probably would have changed her ranking. I think I would really have to go back and either play through or watch you play through with the accessory and kind of seeing her story come full circle to
Mhm.
really see if that would bump her up or bump her down, because I do have some strong feelings about Morrigan. Um, but I feel like she, for the time that she had allotted, she did give herself a very good presence. You did keep a lot of what made Morgan great from the original games, and they just did a great job with her and kind of almost humanizing her a bit. She was kind of not giving too much away, kind of like the mean girl a little bit in Origins. At least that was my opinion.
Mhm.
Totally fun still, but still kind of a mean girl. So I think they softened her a bit in a way that works for the story and doesn't completely get rid of what made her great originally.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think she's great. I think if I had to completely rely on her character or like the way her story is told, I'd probably bump her down a little bit. Um, but fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, depending on your view, I guess. She's really fucking hot, and so I that's enough said. Moving on, let's move on past that. Let's see. Leilani putting in a real trooper. You know what? I'm not even gonna question you because I totally understand that.
Hmm.
Sandra as well, and not gonna question it. Um, I am gonna question. I think Krem belongs in A tier as well, so I'm not gonna question her or them either. I will say for Josephine, because I actually did do Josephine's quest, right?
Mhm.
Where or and well, actually, I want you to kind of educate me a little bit, if I'm mistaken here. Um,
Mhm.
I took on Josephine's quest. I went with her into the city to learn
Mhm.
from the masked assassin guy that she has a hit out on her,
Yep.
because of like some old familial feud or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then she asked me to do like 5 different things for her. And I said, fuck that. I am not going to do all that. That sounds annoying. So, so instead I just had Leilani deal with it. Um, and then after I had Leilani deal with it, I went back to French King's Landing and I talked to Josephine, and she was like, "Hey, listen, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you. Maybe it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I still appreciate it." So it didn't really feel like there were a lot of consequences for me doing it not her way, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so that's I think that's kind of why I ended up forgetting about her, because it felt like one of those things where it's like we had a big decision set up. Um, and I think if Josephine, like, that's why I put her in forgot about, because I I didn't really feel any consequence of not doing her quest her way. Um, had I, enlisted Leilani's help to go ahead and clear the hit on Josephine's life, and then ended up with Josephine saying like, "How dare you? I can't live with this. How I can't believe you would do this to me." And then having her leave the Inquisition over it, that would have been like like it would have been like annoying, I guess, as a player or whatever. But I think it would have been a really strong story, and it would have made her a lot more memorable. Um, Instead, she just kind of like didn't give a shit and just continued to like help us. So I didn't really feel like there was much of a point.
That's fair. I feel like I might be in the minority here, but I really enjoy Josephine. I don't think every character, at least in my opinion, needs to be like this big bombastic character in order to be memorable. Like the fact that she's the one that checks in with the Inquisitor, because again, I played as an elf and people are super prejudiced against elves.
Mhm.
That she's the one that checks in on the Inquisitor of like, are you good? Someone like in one of the cutscenes is like does a microaggression or something against us, and she's like, "Are you good? That was messed up. Like, how dare they?" And at first, you kind of feel like it's just because she's our political advisor, and it's just like, "Hey, that's not PC. We can't
Mhm.
do that." But later on, you start to realize that she just does notice things about people, not just the Inquisitor, but other people that are kind of in the Inquisition.
Mhm.
Stuff about Sera pulling pranks on people. Um, Stuff about like Cole running around and doing things, you start to see that she really does notice and pick up on people. And that probably does come from the background of her being a political person and like we need to keep everything good. But she just does genuinely care about all of these people. And she's just wrangling cats this entire
Yeah.
time. This weird ragtag group of people that are going to save the world. And she has to somehow convince the rich people that we need their money in order to be able to do this inquisition, that this is a great team. She is the very polite, very cute Nick Fury of all of this, selling this weird version of the Avengers to the rich people to get their money. This is the Hunger Games that she is selling us to get those sponsorships.
I
um
I really feel that actually. I totally get I see where you're coming from with that. Um I stand by what I said, where I feel like to have a little bit more personalization, I
mhm,
feel like she should have maybe had like a little bit more of like a negative reaction to the way that I treated her quest.
right.
But I see what you're saying, and I do value her for that. Um, but I think unfortunately, like even in that role, she kind of comes across as like an unsung hero, right?
Mhm.
Which I think unfortunately kind of like probably would naturally lend her to be like maybe a little bit lower on the list than like she probably deserves, you know?
And that's fair.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for that type of character, and then she's also just really cute and has an accent, and that does stuff for me. So.
Yeah, she does actually. She has like a great accent, and I will say this because it's super important actually in this game because like people in this game for whatever reason they're either like cockneyed as fuck, right? Or they're like French assholes with like 12-foot poles stuck up their ass, and it's like she just like thank God we have people like Josephine to just be like normal, you know. Like people who can
Even she's great.
yeah, no, she's great. I do appreciate that about her. I do love her, and I do want to say again, like, um, actually, hang on, I'm looking at this list again. I do want to say, aside from, I'm gonna have to move some people. um, aside from Mother Giselle, who I legitimately forgot existed, and Dagnor, who I don't think,
Dagna.
yeah, that's what I said.
How dare you?
Yeah, who I don't think I ever met. Aside from those two, I actually do love everybody. But there is a hierarchy, and I can't put everybody in best boy / best girl because that's not good content. But anyways, Jenn, I do have something to ask you. Because I have noticed right here at the bottom of your list, you have someone who hasn't been placed.
I do.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you. What gives?
So I tried super hard to rank Solas, and he just didn't seem to fit quite anywhere. Mother Giselle is in her very special forgot about, not necessarily because I did forget about her. It's mostly because I wish I could forget about her. I just can't forgive her being like, yeah, Dorian, maybe you should be less gay. Maybe you should just stop that. It hits a chord with me. I don't like it. I wish I could forget about her. But Solas is a special case because I don't think he should be forgotten. That's not his sin.
Sure.
Well, we can revisit this after Trespasser, but I'll just go ahead and talk about his biggest sin to me in game. Up until this point, when I was playing Inquisition, I have played 2 other BioWare games, which were Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2. And by that point, I learned the formula. You get 3 dates with your love interest, and on the 3rd date, you finally get to roll in the hay. You finally get to have a good time.
Yeah. That's how Mass Effect does it too. Yeah, that's how Mass Effect does it. You're supposed to do it. Yeah.
Apparently, that's just a BioWare special.
Yeah, that's their formula.
How it works there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to what I thought was my fun 3rd date. And then what does Solas do? Not only does he break up with me, he goes ahead and tells me that my very cultural face markings that are one of the few ties that I have to any of the before times before all of my culture got destroyed are actually slave markings. And then he goes ahead and removes those and then decides, you know what? I don't think we should date. And goes ahead and just abandons me in the very romantic setting that he decided to take me to, because that is the best place for breakups to occur.
Jenn, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I think your problem is you don't accept that Solas is a Sigma male. All right. Listen, Sigma males, we you know, game recognized game, okay? That's what I'm going to say. I think that's like a millennial phrase. I don't think that's like a Zoomer thing. Maybe people will get that. What I'm saying is, you know, Solas is a Sigma, and you know, I have to respect him for that. But I respect that you don't respect him for that, Jenn.
I just feel like I was very much led on, and in the world of BioWare, you don't ever get led on without them finishing the deal. And he didn't finish the deal. So I'm a bit salty, and I've been a bit salty about this. There are other reasons too. We just can't talk about them because he hasn't played Trespasser. it's coming. I'm more upset about what happens in Trespasser. We'll
Oh,
get into that
yikes.
decision when we get into there.
Oh,
Um,
yikes. Uh-oh.
but
Uh-oh.
now I can only be upset about what has happened in game. So yeah, he has his little romantic iambic pentameter talk. He is very good at pitching woo and saying romantic little things, and his trip in the Fade is cute. But he is just ultimately very annoying, in the sense of just, I know more than you, I'm better than you when it comes to this. And it stops being cute once he stops complimenting you. And
Yeah, I
I don't
get
know,
that.
there's
I know
this.
I feel that, and I totally understand. Um, I can have my Sigma male memes, but like, yeah, the no, the truth is that uh, it it it's only fun when we're all having fun, and Solus definitely leaves that behind at a certain point, and
Mhm.
clearly signals to you that he just doesn't care that much about it, about your relationship, which I mean, how are you supposed to care if he doesn't?
Yeah, so because of sins already in game and because of sins yet to come, he knows what he did and he knows why he's here.
Okay, so we're gonna introduce just for Jen a special category, the "you know what you did" category. Jen, do we have anyone else who belongs in that category?
I kind of wanted to put Mother Giselle in there because she also knows what she did and what her sins are. But
Yeah.
I would rather have forgotten about her as a character, but he knows.
Yeah, I
He
think
knows what he did.
you know what's so funny actually is you reminded me just now, like literally 30 seconds ago, about what Mother Giselle did
Hmm.
to Dorian in having him meet his dad. And it's so funny because that quest left like an incredible impression on me. And yet, if you were to ask me like who gave you that quest, I would have no fucking clue. like honestly, I don't have a goddamn clue who Mother Giselle is. Um yeah, I just like hearing you mention it, I'm like, oh yeah, I think she did give me that quest. But yeah, dude, I don't know, man. I mean, she could be anyone for all I care, you know?
That's
I
fair.
I really have no idea.
It could have been Dagna.
Yeah. Um no, truly. Um okay, you know what, Jen? Hearing you, I'm gonna go ahead and close your window. Okay. So hearing what you're saying, I have a few thoughts that I'm gonna change, okay?
Okay. Hmm.
Um, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna leave Forgot About completely the same, except for one character, and it's
Oh.
Josephine. And
Oh.
and you know where I'm gonna move her? I'm gonna
Where?
move her right under Leilani.
Oh.
I think she deserves to get moved up a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, Speaking about the pleasant company tier,
Hmm.
I am going to move Sera up to just above Blackwall, who's right next to her. So she literally barely moves at all. Um, so, and these bottom three tiers now at this point, they are solidified. I'm going to leave them as is.
Okay.
Solas, I am going to move above Krem. Just
Okay.
because I think Krem did a lot with very little given.
Hmm.
I think Krem did a lot, and so I think I'm going to keep Krem in A tier or a real trooper. Um, However, I do think that Solus provides a lot of intrigue for us. I do think that he gives us a lot of like kind of emotional whiplash, and even though that can be like a lot to go through as a player, I think that's kind of the point of playing the game, right? Um,
Right.
I think I am so sorry if you were one of the commenters who asked me what I feel about the gameplay of Dragon Age Inquisition recently. Yeah, spoiler alert, it's not very good. I'm mostly playing this game for the story. All right, the story's really good, the dialogue is great, the characters are great. Ooh, the gameplay. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, because of that, I think I'm gonna put Solus a little bit higher. Just because I think he offers some I think he offers some good story beats. You know, I think
Right.
he does some he does a good job. However, I cannot bring myself to put him above my boy, the Bull, who is also going to be moved ahead of Sandra.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, who I loved a lot. I really loved Sandra. Okay, but here's the thing. I think at the end of it, I think there's a reason that I was very willing to give Leilani the position of divine, even though I don't think
Mhm.
that's all shaken out yet. Um, so that may still be something that we have to grapple with. Um, however, I I do see Jen's point in not making Cassandra divine. And I do see even Vivienne's point, because I think Vivienne trashes Sandra a little bit when she's talking about like who's gonna be the next divine.
Right.
She talks about how like Cassandra lacks tact, she lacks people skills, and I think that's a big deal. And I think Leilani doesn't like those skills. Even though Leilani maybe has like some more radical views, um, I do think that she'd just be like, I don't necessarily disagree with those views, because I think that like those circles are like kind of fucked up. um, so I'm more comfortable with putting Leilani in charge of the circles. And I'm not saying that with like, I think I'm not sure if this was in the recording that I fucked up and didn't actually record before the real recording, Jen. Um,
Mhm.
but you were talking to me earlier about how um, Leilani, because of the way that I handle her quest, I may have hardened her heart a little bit,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
I may have pushed her in the direction of being a little bit of like a Magneto or a Malcolm X, right? Someone who is a little bit a little too zealous maybe in their quest for justice, right?
Mhm.
So much so that they may forego the greater good in pursuit of what they perceive as being like a just resolution, right? Um,
Yeah.
and even though I am very much, you know, now that I've become a parent and you know, a boomer of an old man, and you know, I hate these radical kids. Arr! Um, even though that's kind of where I've arrived in my life, I guess. Um, I do still think that Leilani would be a little bit more interesting than Sandra. However, I'm not going to put Leilani higher than Sandra in the character rankings, because I did take Sandra with me, and I do love her dialogue options, and I do love that quest where you find out that she is a huge fan of those romance novels that Varric is writing. Um, so I'm going to keep Sandra where she is, and I'm going to keep Leilani where she is. But I'm just kind of like, I'm just over explaining myself a little bit so that people understand, when they go through my playthrough and they see the choices I've made. I want them to understand why, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Um, moving on from there, I think all of the best boy slash best girl categories are, it's like all of these entries are super self-explanatory. Dorian,
Mhm.
amazing, super good character, super likable. He absolutely has the Riz. Okay. Um, yeah, he's fantastic. Um, and on top of being so likable, he's actually incredibly human when you have a quest that pushes him, um, and like his persona and his, you know, personality. Um,
Right.
yeah, I can't argue with that. Morrigan, um, super interesting. I want to know more about her. There's clearly more to know about her than this game is telling me. And that's obviously evidenced by the fact that she's a character in other games. And so you're kind of, I think, supposed to kind of recognize her, you know, and you're supposed to, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio point at the screen and go, "Oh, that's Morgan," right?
Yeah.
Um, and obviously I get that, but that kind of and even though I don't necessarily fully get that, I do get the complimentary screen time that comes with that. Um, where she introduces you to the Vitruvians or whatever the portals are. Um, and I also couldn't help but notice she's super fucking hot. Um, moving on, Lace Harding. Lace Harding, okay, if Morgan is what I want my dream waifu to look like, Lace Harding is what I want my dream waifu to act like. She is just
Right.
like the most loyal girl, you know? Just like an absolute treasure of a person. Um, I can't. Yeah, I can't. There's nothing else really to say. I think she's fantastic. There's yeah, she's not moving. She's not moving. She's
Excited for her to come back.
yeah. I cannot wait. Actually, like to see her and Varric in the trailer for the next game is fantastic, and actually gives me like a lot of hype for those games for that game that's coming up. And then speaking of which, Varric, I have to mention one thing when it comes to Varric. Okay, I included this man in my party in the final chapters. I think without fail every time, despite the fact that I never learned how to apply the Bianca armament upgrades, the Bianca arms upgrades to his crossbow. Yeah, I never figured that out. I was way too lazy, slash stupid. I never figured it out. And despite that, I still continue to have this man in my party because I love him, because he's a treasure, because he is, as his category would suggest, the best boy.
There you go, internet. That is the one definitive ranking. All other rankings are wrong.
Yeah,
This
true.
is the only definitive ranking now.
And the only reason I hid Jen's is because it was exactly the same as this one that I've got right here. So, you know what? I will say, as a final note, before we get the fuck out of here, I actually like the distribution that we kind of came to. I think you kind of pushed a little bit more people towards the top, and I think that's to be expected. I'm going to ask you about two things actually.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is Corypheus.
Right.
So as a villain,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how you felt, because I feel like if you, as an editor of my videos, I feel like I was glazing this guy super hard when he was like first introduced.
Mm-hmm.
But as missions went on, and as I continued to not really interact with him and more just kind of like interact with like his random ass lieutenants, I kind of like
Right.
I kind of got a little bit bored by him because of that.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about him?
I thought he was a serviceable villain.
Yeah.
I've never really. I like more of like the problems that happen in the Dragon Age world as opposed to like the quote unquote villain of the game. The problems are always much more interesting. We touched on it a bit in the lore video for Dragon Age 2 that it all culminates to kind of the Mage Rebellion.
Mhm.
So as opposed to what becomes the villain of that game, I prefer the actual villain being the problem, which is the impending rebellion that's about to happen and the injustice that caused it.
Sure.
So it kind of goes with the same thing here. Corypheus was an absolutely serviceable villain, in my opinion. He got the job done. He opened the orb. To me, the villain is much more the giant fucking hole in the sky that we need to fix, and all of
Yeah.
these other holes that are just opening up and spewing monsters. So that's really more of what it was. I did like his design. I liked that he was just fucking huge. I think that added stuff there, and the fact that he had a pet. Again, I like people that come with pets. So I thought that was fun. We don't really have a lot of villains that came with a pet, so that was a first, I think, in the franchise. That was
Yeah.
fun. But yeah, I know you weren't really sold on his design, but I really liked his design. I thought it was cool. I liked the red lyrium kind of growing out of him and really misshaping him and everything. Just to give you possibly the benefit of the doubt, like, was this thing ever really human, or is he a quote unquote old god from the Fade? What is really the true story that is going on here? So yeah,
Yeah,
he was
no,
fine. He did
I
his
feel
job.
like I definitely feel like there's a lot going for him. I think I would have liked a little bit more towards the end of like
Hmm.
figuring out how to kill him. I feel like we got to this point where it's like we get to the Well of Sorrows, and then it's just kind of like, oh yeah, if you drink from the Well of Sorrows, I guess you can turn to a dragon and fight his dragon.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I mean, it makes me a little bit sad that I didn't drink from the Well of Sorrows. Um, but you know what? That's on me, I guess. um, I guess I would have liked a little bit more of like a Harry Potter style kind of adventure where like we have to kind of like seek out like, items from his past and maybe figure out like a little bit more about him.
Hmm.
Um and I don't think, I mean, this is 2014, like that's not exactly like there's a lot about this game that I'm like I'll forgive because it's from 2014. But I think that like the idea that like, oh, I mean, I feel like we could have done a little bit better with like characterization for a villain. I feel like
Hmm.
that's not like come on, we could have done that in 2014. There's nothing about 2014 that prevented us from doing that. So,
I mean, I get where you're coming from. I think you should finish Trespasser
mhm,
and then revisit this. I think if we do end up doing our post thoughts, a post mortem, a theory video on what's going to happen next after you finish Trespasser, this will be something good to return to because once again, my hands are tied and I can't properly participate in this conversation.
you know what? That's absolutely fair. And perhaps we will. Once I finish the game, we're definitely gonna do some content. We're definitely gonna put together a review of this, and we may come back to this tier list and kind of revisit our decisions. Um, But one thing we're definitely going to do is, oh, I already mentioned it, I already spoiled it. We're definitely going to do a review of Dragon Age Inquisition about 10 years after it should have happened. So keep your eyes on the channel, guys. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, do all that YouTube pleasantries. Um, Really quick, Jen, I want to get your thoughts on one more character who wasn't
Mhm.
in the list, okay?
Right.
Where would you put on this tier list? Where would you put the Inquisitor?
Uh, I mean,
Specifically,
Inquisitor.
hang on. Specifically, because I think you played, at least for your main playthrough, you played the female
Mhm.
Inquisitor, and I also played the Lady Inquisitor. I played an elf
Mhm.
Lady Inquisitor. Where would you put her?
I think it's so difficult because there are so many different choices. If you're gonna be an Inquisitor that's really into the chantry, if you play an Inquisitor that maybe is a bit more bloodthirsty, there's just so many avenues on doing it. But my Inquisitors clearly always fall under the best girl category.
Yeah, no, I think so too, and I think it almost actually doesn't even matter about like the choices that were made. Um,
Hmm.
I think that the voice actress did a phenomenal job. And I could
Yeah.
tell within like the first like 5 minutes that this was a amazing voice actor. Um,
Hmm.
I Jesus Christ, I'm so unprepared. Jen, when you're editing this video, put up somewheres in the screen. Put up the name of the voice actor. Okay, yeah, put it up somewheres because they are amazingly talented, and I think you would get I think you might get something out of knowing their name if you go and IMDb
Hmm.
them. I can't imagine that they don't have like a good list of credits because that voice, I can't exactly place it, but I know I've heard it before.
Right.
And I think after my first week, I think I was talking to you. Well, maybe I was, or maybe I wasn't. I don't remember. But I think I IMDb'd their name the first week, which was like almost 2 months ago now. Um,
Hmm.
and I saw a good amount of credits, and I thought, like, wow, this person, like, this is a real pro. And it's really like, it says a lot that EA or BioWare or whoever was like, yeah, let's grab this person to be our protagonist. I think it was a fantastic choice, and I think they absolutely got every dollar's worth out of that decision. Yeah, 1,000,000%.
Absolutely.
It's fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure that you give Jen a big thanks in the comments. She works really tirelessly to edit these videos, and I really couldn't do my YouTube channel without her. So be kind, give her a thanks, and thanks for watching the video. And you're definitely going to want to hit subscribe, hit the bell, do all the YouTube pleasantries, because we've got a lot more Dragon Age content coming out for the release of the Veil Guard. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.